All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Tuesday, January 11th, 2022 regular closed session meeting of the East Bay Mud Board of Directors. In accordance with Government Code Section 54953E, this meeting will be conducted by webinar and teleconference only. A physical location will not be provided for this meeting. All directors, including myself, are participating remotely. Roll call, please, Madam Secretary.
Director Coleman.
Present.
Director Katz.
Present.
Director McIntosh.
Here.
Director Mellon.
Present.
Director Patterson.
Present.
Director Young.
I am, whoops, I'm here.
President Linney.
I was on mute.
I'm here. We are now at the public comment section. If members of the public wish to make public comment, please use the raise your hand feature in Zoom. When prompted, please state your name, affiliation if applicable, and topic. Please refrain from providing personal information such as addresses or phone numbers during public comment. If we need this information, we will have you contact staff. The secretary will call each speaker in the order received. Each speaker is allotted 3 minutes to speak. However, I have the discretion to amend this time based on the number of speakers. The secretary will track the time and inform each speaker when the allotted time is concluded. Do we have any speakers?
At the moment, we have 3, we have 4, 5, and so I'll just start calling names. The first speaker is Eddie, no last name. Eddie, you should be able to unmute your mic. And your 3 minutes will start now.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, President Linney and board, members of the board and General Manager Chan. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak today. My name is Eddie Chung. I have served the ratepayers of East Bay Mud for over 16 years as a storekeeper 2 working out of Oakport Yard. I am fortunate to also serve as the treasurer of ASBE Local 444, having been elected to hold this office for the last 4 years. As treasurer, I often deal with numbers, and I would like to share some numbers with you today. There are over 750 members in Local 444. There are over 90 different classifications, from automotive maintenance worker 1 to water distribution plumber 4. Our salaries range from $57.66 per month for janitors, which work out to $69,000 per year, to $10,432 per month for water distribution crew foreman, which is about $125,000 per year. Just using top scale of each classification to show the maximum that each class can earn, I calculate the average salary of Local 444 members to be $86.06 per month and the median salary to be $85.56 per month. That is, half of Local 444 earn more than $85.56 and half earn less. The yearly salary would be $103,000. This seems like a lot, but not in the Bay Area. And in November 2021 Bay Area, NBC Bay Area segment, they reported on the housing costs in the Bay Area. The income required to purchase a home in the Bay Area counties range from $364,000 in San Mateo, $331,000 in San Francisco, $305,000 in Marin, $236,000 in Alameda, $169,000 in Napa, $135,000 in Sonoma, and $105,000 in Solano. So you see, the average salary of Local 444 members of $103,000 would barely afford Solano, and the high end of $125,000 of the water distribution crew foreman would barely afford Sonoma. Of course, there are other costs too, like food, gas, clothes, etc. In the CNBC segment, also from November of 2021, it was reported that the CPI for October was 6.2 above 2020. Fuel cost was 12.3% above the previous month and 59% for the past year. Food was 0.9% above the previous month and 5.3% for the past year. Staples like meat, poultry, fish, eggs was 1.7% above the previous month and 12% for the past year. So you see, these numbers show that Local 444 needs a decent raise in our salary. I urge the board to accept our wage proposal, to give us a salary that would be competitive in the Bay Area and maintains a reasonable standard of living. And finally, I would like to say a word in support of our janitor members' fight for equity adjustment. They are only asking for a one-step increase, which is 2.5%. This works out to $144 per month and $17.28 per year. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you, Eddie.
Okay. Next, we have Eric L. Eric, you should be able to unmute your mic, and your 3 minutes start now.
Thank you, Risha. Good morning, President Linney, Board of Directors, General Manager Chan. This is Eric Larson, President, AFSCME Local 444. We have been at the negotiations table almost a year now. A year ago, we could not have anticipated that the nation would be in the grips of inflation not seen in 30 years, the causes of which are unprecedented, an unprecedented economy that depends upon a multi-layered and interwoven global system of production and delivery so complex that one break in the chain, one jam in the cog can cause a whole cascading downstream effect. Now overlay that with the global COVID pandemic, factory closures, government shutdowns, operators and engineers out sick, a chain reaction ricochet through the whole system as production and delivery comes to a halt. These times are unprecedented and the conditions for it are unprecedented. The Federal Reserve have financial tools, instruments with which they will employ to try to regain control, but nobody knows if any of it will work. The record stock market could come crashing down, sending us into a recession, or inflation could continue to run rampant, none of which do we want to happen, nor do we have control. We do want to get through this COVID pandemic, and we do hope the Fed is effective in managing inflation, but we cannot accept the uncertainty, nor a wage package that falls short of getting us, your frontline essential workers, your workers who have been here every day, maintaining critical infrastructure for our ratepayers, providing the most reliable, clean water and sanitation, your water distribution plumbers, your heavy equipment operators, your plant maintenance mechanics, your wastewater plant operators, your heavy equipment mechanics, your janitors, your grounds maintenance specialists and electricians and instrument techs have been here every day. You need them here every day. The water doesn't turn off, the toilets don't stop flushing. Our customers depend upon reliability. Reliability we have proven throughout the COVID pandemic. Every day, day and night, we're here providing the service your customers, our customers, the ratepayers know and expect. The knowledge, skills, and abilities to do this didn't come overnight. The institutional knowledge and skills with which we do this have been built upon years of service. Skills and knowledge we will take with us if it becomes too expensive to live here, if we can't afford the high fuel costs, the high energy costs, the high rent, the high home prices. We will go, we will have to leave. We don't want to, but we may have to. That is why we're asking you to raise the ceiling and raise the CPI plus component in years 3 and 4, so that we can maintain our livelihoods in the Bay Area and continue to maintain the water and wastewater infrastructure in the Bay Area. Raise the wages, raise the ceiling, and raise the CPI plus in years 3 and 4. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
Next, we have Tyrell Jackson. Tyrell, you should be able to unmute your mic, and your 3 minutes start now.
Good morning, President Linney, distinguished board members, and General Manager Chan. My name is Tyrell Jackson. I'm a water distribution plumber 3, member of Local 444 contract negotiations team for the second contract. I'm speaking as my fellow colleagues have spoken regards to the contract that we're negotiating now. We have been negotiating this contract for close to a year at this time. Our last contract, we had wrapped it up. We had actually asked for stuff that was pretty close to this contract, a little short of this contract, but wasn't that far away. But times wasn't like it is in this contract cycle. This contract cycle is very different and very unique. We have prices going through the roof. We have a pandemic going. We have a surge going. There's no end in sight. We don't know where none of this is going. But we've been here, boots on the ground, day in, day out. We've given a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And we just want to be respected. We just want a contract that's acceptable, and we want you to look at our wage proposal. We're close. We're not that far away. And I know we can do it. Thank you. I don't want to take up all your time, so I'm sure other people want to speak, but please take our proposal serious and to give direction to your SMT. Thank you.
Thank you, Tyrell.
Next, we have George Cleveland. George, you should be able to unmute your mic. Your 3 minutes start now.
Thank you, Risha. Excuse me. Good morning, members of the board, General Manager Chan, and anyone else listening on this. I'm not talking about negotiations. I have something else. District wants to punish some of my local 2019 members for alleged violations of district policies and procedures on email use, access to district databases, and contact with non-district folks. The proposed punishment is severe enough that management is required to provide copies of the documents and info to local 2019 that were used to explain the reason for the proposed discipline. One of the things stressed in documents is protecting confidential information. Some of the documents provided us show email exchanges between district employees and the non-district folks, who in this case are retirees. Yet, despite management stressing confidentiality, the personal emails of the retirees in these exchanges, in this paperwork, were not redacted, as was the personal cell phone of one of the retirees. So we've had information, private personal information belonging to people who don't work for EBMUD that were shared with EBMUD employees without these retirees' knowledge or consent. I contacted them because I had their emails, and I told them what was happening, and they're not happy, and they plan to contact the board. They're not going to speak in public comment, but they're going to contact the board privately. I find it kind of hypocritical that district wants to punish our members for this action when they can't keep things confidential themselves. It's especially problematic when the departments involved in this lack of confidentiality are HR, because they run investigations, the general manager's office, because 2 of the documents about this were signed by people who work in that office, and our legal group, which is responsible for reviewing these documents when this type of punishment is proposed. It's wrong. It's inappropriate. The other thing connected to this, it seems like the punishments that are proposed for local 2019 members, when they do something supposedly wrong, they seem to have become a lot harsher recently. I tie that to the appointment of our new general counsel. I just want to let folks know that our members are not a proving ground for someone to show how tough they are in their new role. That's inappropriate. And getting back to this whole thing, I want the board and the GM to think about it. If you were having an email exchange with somebody else, and that somebody else supposedly did something wrong, and your information was shared with that other person's work group without your knowledge or consent, and that other people who had no business accessing your personal information now had access to it. I would like you to think how you would feel if you were in that situation. So that's all I have to say for today. So thank you very much for your time. And as I said earlier today, Happy New Year to you all.
Thank you, George.
Next, we have Brandon Battiati. Brandon, you should be able to unmute your mic. And your 3 minutes will start now.
Hello, good morning. My name is Brandon Battiati. I'm a plumber 4 here at the district and the second vice president for Local 444. Today, I'm here to talk about wages. My fellow employees and I have been underpaid for some time now, but we have been compensating for that underpayment by working more overtime, having side or weekend jobs, and asking our significant others, if possible, to work more hours. We have also been cutting back on things at home. You can only cut back so much before it starts to affect quality of life. Some employees have even had to move their families back in with their parents. We cannot cut back anymore. It is time for us to get paid, number one, what we are worth, but also enough to live and not struggle. I have 2 boys, 5 and 7. They both go to karate. That's $290 a month. They are also in 4-H. For those who don't know what that is, it's a program that teaches kids to raise animals and work together to build projects as a group, valuable life lessons that now I'm having to decide if we can afford to keep them in these programs. And now with COVID, it's even more important for kids to have some sense of normalcy in their lives. I checked this morning before the meeting. Alameda County is 69% higher than the national average cost of living. That's food, fuel, housing, and clothing. Our workforce is feeling the hit now more than ever. So I ask that you continue, as you have been, to work with our negotiation team to get to a wage package that makes it so that we don't have to struggle to live. A happy, unstressed workforce is a more productive workforce. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Brandon.
Next, we have Randy Hernandez. Randy, you should be able to unmute your mic. And your 3 minutes start now.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Randy Hernandez. I've been plant maintenance mechanic, the SD1 for just about 25 years now. You know, I started putting down, drawing on a couple of some experiences and some reasons why we deserve a competitive salary, and how essential our work has been revealed. You know, how that our professions to keep our society functioning and surviving. And it's really hard going back that many years to just nail one experience. One that comes to mind is years ago, how we as workers, as plant maintenance mechanics and operators, put together a plan to shut down a station and had contingencies in place that protected the city of Alameda from a sewage spill in the middle of the night, because we knew exactly what we needed, because of equipment failure that we didn't anticipate, but we prepared for. These are the kind of things that we do every day that you don't see, that the public doesn't see, the ratepayers don't see. You know, while they're sleeping, everybody gets up, expects to be able to flush the toilet and turn the water on and not have a problem. But you have the people that are working in the middle of the night. They're in adverse conditions, cars running by them, bullets dropping nearby where they're working, and many other things like this. So, and then I look and I compare my wage and some other wages of some of my other 444 members, or brothers and sisters, and some other agencies, and see that how far behind we are. It's disheartening, but you know, after almost 25 years, what am I going to do? You know, I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm getting close to the end of my career, and I'm hearing applicants that are coming in for plant maintenance mechanic position, and realizing that they're not going to start at the top, and it's too long of a commute, and they certainly can't afford to live in the area. So I'm going to go on and get a job somewhere else that pays more, and that's closer to my home. This has been a long road, this negotiations. I am fortunate to be on the negotiations team, and I am disappointed in the process and how expedient the process is. And we've 444 members have spent a lot of time and effort to really address our issues that we've had in the past from the MOUs and our contracts. And anyway, so, you know, I just asked that, you know, take a look around. I had asked you, if you don't understand a job and you don't understand the value of it, I asked the last 2 contracts. I personally invited the board directors for a tour of my work areas so that I explained to them and show them what's going on. Get out there, see what we do, because that will reveal how important we are, and we make it happen. We are out there. We cannot sit at home, be nice and safe. Look at the explosion of all the COVID cases now, and we still have to go to work and don't know if we're going to bring it home or not.
Randy, your comment time has concluded. Can you please wrap up?
I will cease there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Randy. And I just want to say, you know, I think we do recognize and do want to appreciate and even take this moment to recognize the hard work that our employees do, and the conditions that are often required to repair the pipes in the middle of the night and to make sure that water is always flowing, and that we're very proud of our workforce and the work that we do, and greatly appreciate it. And of course, all hopeful that we'll reach a fair contract shortly. But appreciate your time and everyone's time who's coming to talk about these issues.
Next, we have Jason Pearson. Jason, you should be able to unmute your mic. And your
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Your 3 minutes start now.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. My name is Jason Pearson. I've been a proud local 444 member. I've been with the district serving the ratepayers for a little over 21 years now, and I'm a water distribution plumber 3. I work days, nights. I take call. I put in new pipes to replace the old ones. I take time away from my family to work nights to keep our ratepayers with clean, safe water. I don't think our union is asking for much. If you look at anybody in the Bay Area, I mean, we're living on breadcrumbs right now. Myself, we've been looking at other states to look for jobs to move, possibly to Texas, Florida, Idaho, somewhere around there right now, because it's too darn expensive here. Yeah, that's all I need to say. And if anybody's looking for a job, governmentjobs.com, look there. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jason.
Next, we have Joe Pangliani. Joe, you should be able to unmute your mic. And your 3 minutes start now.
Thank you, Risha. Good morning, Board of Directors, General Manager Chan, and all others in attendance. My name is Joe Pangliani, and I'm the Chief Steward of Local 444. I'm also an East EBMUD electrical technician and have served our ratepayers for 16 years. It took a 4-year apprenticeship and many more years of experience on the job to become seasoned enough to perform all the functions that the district requires of my classification. Timeframes like this hold true for all of Local 444's represented classifications. Throughout this pandemic, including the recent surge of COVID cases, Local 444 has reported to work to ensure the water keeps flowing. We provide an essential function that cannot be performed by an average workforce. There are essential costs that East EBMUD workers must pay to live and work in the Bay Area, and all those costs have risen substantially. To continue to provide great water, a competitive salary is needed to ensure your employees can live in this area and perform at the highest level, a level at which East EBMUD's ratepayers have come to expect. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Joe.
Next, we have Michael Morgan. Michael, you should be able to unmute your mic, and your 3 minutes start now.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Michael Morgan. I'm a water distribution plumber 3 out of South Yard. And I'm just here to please remind you to consider a better wage package. We've been working harder and harder, it seems, year after year, between regulatory compliances, work rule changes, shortage of staffing. The work seems to be getting harder and harder. And then on top of that, you also add the rising costs of just groceries, fuel, living, and it really is getting tough on us. So I don't want to take up too much of your time, but just like to please consider offering a more fair wage package so we can please wrap up this contract. It would mean a lot to us. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Michael.
Next, we have Yvette Rivera. Yvette, you should be able to unmute your mic. And your 3 minutes
Thank
will
you,
start
Risha.
now.
Thank you, Risha. I just want to mention that I spoke at the HR committee meeting this morning. I know that the equity, inclusion, and diversity plan is going to be presented today to the full board. And I just want to tell you that this morning I spoke at the meeting where Derry presented the plan, and I thank Derry and his staff for their work on the diversity inclusion plan. I also addressed Derry directly when I told him that it wouldn't take him long to discover that East EBMUD's diversity, equity, and inclusion plan is just propaganda, and that soon he and his staff would probably go down the same path as Nigeria Edwards and all of the other people of color and women that have left this organization because similar programs have just been propaganda, in my opinion. I ended my address this morning to Derry by telling him to think about the fact that we have present board members that have been at East Bay Mud up to 31 years and nothing has changed. To think that at 31 years, we're still at square one. I mentioned that John Coleman has 31 years of the district. Frank Mellon has 28. Director Patterson, 25. Director McIntosh, I think 17. Let's review my, no, 23. Doug Linney, 21, and Director Katz, 16. I then addressed the HR committee by telling them that last night I provided East Bay Mud a public document, the McIntosh Urban civil rights lawsuit against the district. I'm not going to read to you at this meeting what I read this morning, but that document is available to the public. In my email, the title was "Not Much Has Changed at East Bay Mud Since Federal Court Case 83-3037." And I just want to say that there were affirmative defenses pled by East Bay Mud, I'm sure, and I'm going to get that document because I believe that when I compare it to the present day 2021 lawsuit, Saji Pierce and Ariel Bland against Laura Costa, Craig Spencer, and East Bay Mud, there are going to be similarities. And I'm just going to make sure that I provide those documents to the public record. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you, Yvette.
Next, we have Kyle Terry. Kyle, you should be able to unmute your mic.
Good morning, President Linney, board members, and General Manager Chan. My name is Kyle Terry, and I'm an instrument tech here at the district, and I've been here for 7 years. I came in as an instrument worker 2 and worked my way up over the years to be a journeyman tech. I've invested a lot of time, not just developing my trade skills here at the district, but also something that is irreplaceable, which is the knowledge of where things are and how they work together with the process. Besides that, I've also established relationships with other trades, operators, engineers, and supervisors, which is a major part of the East Bay Mud values. Before COVID happened, we were out working during PSPS season while fires were raging in the region and air quality index was extremely high. It was necessary to do to keep the district up and running, but we did what was needed to do. And now we've been working during this pandemic, which is very dangerous. And even after the vaccination mandates, people are still catching it and spreading it. And I'm currently looking for a job. They're hiring at other places. They have the Dublin San Ramon Services District, which is paying $16,000 more than I'm currently being paid. And so we're just asking for, reasonable wages that match the area's demands and the cost of living to live in the Bay Area. It's very expensive out here. Rent prices are soaring. Home prices are soaring. And we just want to be able to, live the American dream and buy a home with our families. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle.
Next, we have Pat Virgin. Pat, you should be able to unmute your mic, and your 3 minutes start now.
Good morning, Board of Directors and Mr. Chan. My name is Pat Virgin. I'm a plant maintenance mechanic with SD1. I've been with the district for just shy of 34 years. I've got 50 some odd years experience since my father started here before I was born at the plant, and I've seen a lot of changes. I would just ask you to implore you to look at our wage packages. We have currently 3 openings, and we've had 8, I think it is, new hires within the last 2 years out of the 21 in the group. The knowledge base that is leaving is tremendous, and we're going to have a couple of more leaving within the next year. And with the following year, we'll probably have 3 more leaving. So we're going to be losing a lot of knowledge base. When you take your car into a mechanic, do you want to take it into the guy that just came out of school? Or would you rather have it take it to somebody that the person that's working on your car has worked with somebody that's worked on your classic automobile over the years? That's what the knowledge base is, and that's what costs. The home prices are ridiculous. We've had some good people leave because they couldn't afford to buy a home near here. We had, out of the last hiring list, there was 8 people. 3 of them turned down the job because the starting wage was not high enough. And we've had 2 others left for financial reasons. So we've had, out of the 8 that were on the hiring list, out of 50 applications, we have 3 working for us and really good guys, but we have 3 more current openings. We need more people, and to get good people, you need to pay a good wage. We just ask that, you know, maybe eliminate the first step and give us a little, that wage package that Mr. Larson expressed. The cost of living is going through the roof, and we need to be able to afford to, you know, buy our family more than just a chicken for dinner. We need to be able to buy nice things. The kids need karate lessons to learn self-control. Those are things that all make better citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick.
Next, we have Joey Smith. Joey, you should be able to unmute your mic, and your 3 minutes start now.
Good morning again, President Linney, Vice President Coleman, Board, General Manager Chan. My union siblings in 4 have expressed something that everyone at East Bay MUD is experiencing. We have to remember that we are in an essential industry, right? Only thing that humans, communities need more than good air is good water. Working in the field, in the office, remotely or a hybrid, with the emphasis on working, we have been doing that consistently, health provided. The district takes pride in being a leader in this industry, and we also learn from others. We take such an important stance of trying to be median in what people pay for this excellent essential service that we had not included salaries in the budget beforehand. And so we're tight squeezed and locked in. How is that acknowledging and treating essential workers as the essential people that they are? Because we all know that East Bay MUD would not be East Bay MUD, and we would not be able to claim that we have the cream of the crop if we didn't. The salaries that people are being stuck with and pigeonholed in right now is not going to continue to draw the cream of the crop. Sometimes people get hired after a couple people have passed for whatever the reason is, whether it's the pay, the benefits, or whatever. Sometimes people don't make it through probations for whatever those reasons are. But we still have to make sure that those who are here can remain here and not have to find a less expensive place to live or a better pay. If we're going to continue our legacy of East Bay MUD being a leader in this industry as far as the brain and the body, East Bay MUD is a great place to work. But if we can't keep our employees, don't know what the future holds. So please do take into consideration the proposals that 2019 has put forward, because we are worth it. And each one of you who come to these board meetings, because you are elected, we know you don't get paid like we get paid, but you take your jobs seriously and you show up, whether it's in person or it's on remote. Well, so do we. And we appreciate your consideration. We appreciate your thoughtfulness. And also remember, some of us are constituents as well. You don't want to have your employees not be able to vote for you because we don't live here anymore. That's a thought. Again, Happy New Year to those who I haven't spoken with before. We look forward to working together, going down this road to a better tomorrow. Have a great day.
Thank you, Joey.
Next, we have Brian Dominguez. Brian, you should be able to unmute your mic. And your 3 minutes start now.
Good morning. My name is Brian Dominguez. I'm a heavy equipment operator here at the district. I have been here going on 4 years. My job is essential because without heavy equipment operators, who's going to dig the trench to lay the main and things like that? We're looking for a higher wage to compensate for the inflation that has been going on over the past few years. I currently have an hour-and-a-half plus commute each way to get to and from work because I cannot afford to live within the district. And my question to you guys is, do you guys feel we are not essential and we do not deserve these wages that we are asking for? I mean, feel free to answer.
Brian, during public comment, we're not, allowed to answer if it's an item that's not on the agenda.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for your time, and I hope you guys consider our package and everything that we do to keep everybody in water. And
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate your speaking to us today.
Brian ended his conversation. We have no other members on the line for public comment. I have an additional hand. I have an additional 2 hands at the moment.
Three.
Yeah, there are 3, 4. They're adding up. So we're going to continue, and I also have 2 comments that I will not read verbatim, but I will read just the title into the minutes for the record. So we're going to call on you. You should be able to unmute your mic. And your 3 minutes start now.
Good morning, General Manager Chan, President Linney, the rest of the board. Sincerely appreciate every one of you and everything that you've done for the district over the years. I know it's a difficult job, made more so difficult by the times that we're in today, and I don't take any of that for granted. Growing up, there was always conversation about emotions and feelings and keeping those out of conversations that are just about logistics. But I put forth before you the only distinction between humans and everything else is emotions and feelings. Whatever we do, it's for gratification or to satisfy a need. And if it's a feeling, a hunger, a cold, or pain versus an emotion of joy or sadness, That's life. And at the end of the day, whether you are believing in a heaven and a hell or reincarnation or just an end to it all, none of this really matters in any other way. And so it's with a lot of frustration that I listen to the comments as I'm trying to perceive them from what you must be hearing and what we're hearing from this side. There doesn't seem to be a lot of good feeling about work right now. And given the employees are given the majority of their life to the district, it's sad to hear things now that I didn't hear 10 years ago about being at the district. You reflect on opportunities and you're hearing 2-3 applicants that are qualified, and the hiring that happens is usually the second or third choice. There are concerns about the math of it all. I'm sure the numbers come out tomorrow for inflation will be something like 7%. If you listen to people like the CEOs of the banks over at Chase, they're telling you that's going to be the new norm. It's not something transitory. Yeah, the cost of house is expensive in the Bay Area. It's very different in other places in some deals. And it's more compounded by things like PEPRA, where if you're coming in here to, I mean, let's just take anybody's salary who's meaningful at the height of the place, the GM. If they were to retire, they would be leaving at 67 and getting something like 20 to 30% of what their salary would be otherwise because of all the different caps at that level. Maybe at the everyday employee, that's not the same thing, but there's a 40% saving for the district that doesn't seem to be registering for anyone at the moment. It's a conversation that's been put off because employees aren't recognizing or they're not thinking about retirement the second they walk in the door. That's the last thing on people's mind. But as they see colleagues leaving and as they start doing the math on it, you're going to have a conversation that I would urge we discuss today and not 4 years from now or 10 years or next negotiation or the one after that, because it's just putting it off. And in the meantime, you're getting less and less qualified candidates interested in these positions, giving away 10% of your salary and not seeing anything for a return unless you get to live to be 95. I also missed an opportunity to speak about diversity earlier, so I won't take up too much time here about it, but I will note that in the top 20 performance pays that were calculated for percentages, all of which are
Your
going to be
3 minutes have concluded, so if you could wrap up your comments, please.
Sure, please. 6% or more across the board, of which 0 at our current Black or African American employees at the district today. And the final thing is COVID. I appreciate all the work that's been done with it. Nobody saw it coming. All these communications that are coming in at 10, 11 o'clock at night. I thank all that are participating in the tracing. I thank the board, the GM for the decisions and the discretion to not stick to an arbitrary date to return to the office and put it more at risk. And I reiterate concerns that I've shared outside here that when we heard that this was not that serious or that we're all going to get it anyway or just head to work anyway if you're asymptomatic.
Could you please wrap it up?
Yes. Those were the comments we were hearing from people that were saying this wasn't a big deal in the beginning, and we dismissed them when we were putting the mandates in place for vaccinations and otherwise. So please don't take the opposite position now that we're discussing safety. Thank you for all you do. Have a wonderful, happy new year, and have a great day.
Thank you for your comments. Please try to keep them within the 3 minutes. We have a lot of speakers to get to. Appreciate it if everybody can stay within their time.
Next, we have Jennifer Gray. You should be able to unmute your mic. And your 3 minutes will start now.
Yes, good morning, everybody, and thank you for your time. I just want to applaud everyone and everything that's been said up until this point. It's very passionate, and people are very desirous of not having to move out of the state of California, or at the very least move somewhere farther away that would make this job not something that would work for them. You know, it's a really stressful time, and I think the bottom line is we're asking you to step up and help in a way that maybe you're not thrilled with. Maybe it's more money than you want to spend, but I can assure you, being out here working in the trenches with these guys every day, you know, you see what we do on paper, but I can tell you, I've been here almost 5 years now, and I had no idea the amount of work and brain power that goes into what it is these crews do out here. I can't speak to any of the other workers. I'm sure it's the same there as well. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think there is a large disconnect from the board with regards to what actually goes on, as opposed to when you just read about what goes on. You know, we have to be able to pivot at any given time. Our crew had to do it today. It's a lot. And you know, my property taxes have almost doubled in the last year. I have to keep my heat in my house at about 64 degrees because otherwise the PG&E bill is going to be $400 or $500. Food is through the roof. Two steaks at Safeway. Granted, they're ribeyes, but I like a good ribeye every now and then. 2 bone-in ribeyes, $45. Okay, it's crazy and it's scary. And we're out on the roads and in the streets with people that are citizens that are equally as scared and irritated, and it's a lot. So I think it is really, really important to remember you do have crews out and people that work for you that are extremely knowledgeable, more than you will even begin to understand. I will guarantee it. And we're worth it. We work hard, we care. And the saying around East Bay Mud nowadays even has changed since when I first came. You know, we want you to have a life outside of your job. But now what I hear, East Bay Mud is the greatest job you'll ever hate, because people are just at the end of their ropes for so many reasons. And we need your help. So I would just ask that you know, stop looking at the numbers as much and honestly look at the people that you have. And we do care. And we want to know that you care. And you say you care, but we want to see it. And I don't think that's unreasonable. So thank you for your time. Happy New Year. And yeah, keep up let's go back to the table and work. Thanks.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Just for accounting at the moment, we have 3 additional speakers. I'm calling Miguel Lugo. You should be able to unmute your mic. Your 3 minutes start now.
Good morning, President Lindsay, board members, General Manager Chan. My name is Miguel Lugo. I am a heavy transport operator here at the district. I am a ASME 444 e-board member. I've been serving the ratepayers for just about 6 years. When I came to the district, everybody who knows me will tell you, I said, this is the best job you could ever have. I still feel that way. But the way things are going with inflation, gas prices, I travel to and from work at least an hour and a half every day, like my brother Brian Dominguez, and traffic has gotten worse. The people on the roads have gotten worse. I drive a truck when I get to the district, and I go out and deliver materials to the pipeline crews, which I used to do. Now I'm on the pipeline crew. People out here are so stressed out, they don't care where they're going. They're just going to where they're going. So it takes people behind the wheel safely to get to and from job sites, to and from dump sites or work locations where they're getting materials to transport back and forth. You can't get that off the street. You can hire somebody in a traffic school, but they don't know how to downgrade going downhill. I see it frequently more and more every day because they don't teach that anymore. So I encourage you, I implore you to come back to the table and give us a package that is compensating us for what we have to go through. Bullets flying. Like I said, people are just in disarray because their focus is to get from point A to point B, and everything else is oblivious. We've come to work through the heavy smoke. Like other people have said, we're out here during COVID. People running around without masks. We're taking care of ourselves, but any one of us can be touched by somebody who doesn't care. We're just in their way. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Miguel.
Next, we have Zubin. Zubin, you should be able to unmute your mic. And your 3 minutes start now. Zubin, are you there? We will come back to you, Zubin, when you're able to unmute your mic. Evan Kleinkorman, you should be able to unmute your mic.
Good morning.
Good morning. Your 3 minutes will start now.
Thank you. Good morning to all the members of the board of directors and General Manager Chan. My name is Evan Kleinkorman. I am my wastewater treatment operator, grade 1 at SD1, and I've served the ratepayers in the district for 3.5 years. I'm about to become an operator 2 and complete the trades training program. It's been a lot of it's been many twists and turns to get here, lots and lots and lots of training and practice. And it takes training like ours to pull off a storm as well as the last few that we've been pulling off. There was celebration throughout our wastewater department. Thanks to the way that we were able to pull through those storms with 500 million gallons a day plus going through the system. That took our training, and that took our practice, and people were sweating bullets and taking overtime and working together tirelessly to make that happen. I was very proud of that. We're essential, and we obviously couldn't be filled off the street for that to pull off something like that. My 3.5 years of training, I consider only getting in on the ground floor, and still much to learn about the ins and outs of what we do. My grocery bill between myself and my fiance has topped $1,000 a month. $1,000 a month for the regular spread of groceries. It's gotten ridiculous. Everything's up. I don't think I have to harp on that too much. It's very obviously true. Myself and my coworkers, you didn't used to hear talk of leaving this job ever, but people are trying to make it work. And if the real estate market were actually reasonable, it would be the price of a house would probably be about 30% of what they actually are now. And it's a problem for all of us, and we all find ourselves trying to think of alternatives. This has gone on a long time, this round of negotiations, and I appreciate that the district has to do what it can to run itself for a million different needs. But I really don't feel that this should have been going on this long with the cost of living up, and it's just unquestionable that we need to be able to meet those in order to continue to work for the district, continue to retain our talent and our people within. We're all very frustrated. I support our Ask Me 444 bargaining position and wage proposal. We're asking for you to do that. And we're asking for you to pay us a salary that is competitive in the Bay Area and maintains a reasonable standard of living. And we thank you for hopefully bringing this contract negotiations to a swift close after now. Thank you very much.
Evan, thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. And I just want to take this moment to say, the work that's been done with the wet weather facilities by you and all your coworkers has been exemplary and something that we appreciate greatly, as does everyone in the Bay Area who benefits from the work done there and the protection of the Bay that's been done with that. So thank you. You said you were very proud of the work you did, and you should be. Again, thank you for coming today.
Okay, we're going to try Zubin one more time.
Hello?
Hello, we can hear you. So your 3 minutes will start now.
Thank you for the second opportunity here. Yeah, my name is Zubin Engineer. I'm a plant maintenance mechanic here at SD1, member of 444. And I support, the bargaining position and the wage proposal. I pretty much echo everyone else and their thoughts. And I just wanted to, express that I've been born and raised here in California, Bay Area. And, working through the industries, pharmaceutical and healthcare, and now into, wastewater utilities, I've come to recognize that the Bay Area is a leader in innovation and trends. And, I've also, sort of gathered that East Bay MUD is probably like the second largest in the state as far as utility districts go, maybe third, but we're right about that realm. And so I just want to express to you that, we can, the board of directors has the power here, and East Bay MUD has the power here to be innovative and set trends and set an example for the rest of the country and other states and utility districts, and let them know that, we are here, we're strong, we are the second largest, we have a great crew, we have great people that work for us, and we pay a very good prevailing wage for our employees. And this is the place you want to be, and this is the place you want to come to. So nothing should stand in your way from wanting to join this team. So again, just if we could lead by example, I do support that 444 bargaining position and wage proposal. I think that would be very helpful. The 5% at 1 and 2, and 3 and 4, CPI +1. So let's make this happen, and let's be talked about, and let's lead by example. Thank you.
Thank you, Zubin.
Next, we have, I don't want to mess up the name, Khuynh, Khuynh. Should be able to unmute your mic. And your 3 minutes start now.
Yeah, you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, my name is Kenny Huynh. I'm the maintenance machinist, and I've been working for district for 20 years. My job is maintain equipment, make sure it's working from pumping plant to reservoir and all the water treatment plant. And I performing emergency repairing support on it. So I will just try to wrap it up. I was asking the board to set it up to help us, local 444, to have the district accept the proposal, 444 proposal, and, give us a stage to work, to stay with the district. Anyway, that's just what I want to ask for just good, fair share. That's all I'm asking. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I have no other hands for public comment. I just want to acknowledge two public comments that we received over the last few weeks. The first comment was from Amy Bowman, and Amy wrote expressing concern about the COVID test sites and safety protocols, and staff responded to Amy's email. The second email was from employee Diane Eggering regarding local 2019 negotiations and asking the board to consider the negotiating team's request for a $2,013 match in 401k funds for employees hired after 2013. So those comments will be filed with the record, and it looks like that concludes public comment for this portion of the meeting.
All right, thank you.
President Linney, we have about an hour and a half of closed session items, and the Brown Act briefing will take 30 minutes. It's not critical that we do the Brown Act briefing today. We can, but it'll push everything out. So if you like, we can move forward with the Brown Act briefing, or we can move it to another day.
I'm seeing
Another
pushing
day.
motions, I think it'd be best if we do push it to another time. If that's okay, Derek and Clifford.
That should work.
That's fine by me.
All right. I just want to take a moment again and thank all of our employees for coming here. I know you don't see yourselves as public speakers, and it can sometimes be intimidating. I appreciate you sharing your stories. I also appreciate and notice and note your respect for your fellow employees and standing up for them, some of the ones who can't maybe speak here. Also your respect for how difficult this negotiation has been this year for a variety of reasons. And also really your respect that I've heard certainly today for the board and all the team that's working to come up with a fair answer and balance to the negotiations. And I think it speaks volumes about our employees and our culture here, that we can disagree and make our cases without the conflict that otherwise we see in other workplaces, and appreciate that and take note of that. So thank you everyone for being here today and working through this process. With that, we'll now convene to discuss closed session agenda items, and we're scheduled for our regular meeting at 1:15. Thank you. Welcome everyone to our Tuesday, January 11th, 2022 regular business meeting of the East Bay Mud Board of Directors. In accordance with Government Section 54953E, this meeting will be conducted by webinar and teleconference only. A physical location has not been provided. The Planning and Legislative Human Resources Committees met this morning. Representatives will report out under item 23. All directors, including myself, are participating remotely. Roll call, please, Madam Secretary.
Director Coleman.
Present.
Director Katz.
Present.
Director McIntosh.
Here.
Director Mellon.
Present.
Director Patterson.
Present.
Director Young.
I'm here.
And President Linney.
And I am here. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
All right. First order of business is the election of our officers and the election of the president. Floor is now open for nominations for president of the board for 2022.
If I could speak, President Linney, I'd like to nominate you again for president.
Thank you, John.
And I'll second that.
No second to nomination.
All right, I hear several seconds. I'll let the board secretary choose.
I thought I heard Director Katz first. Did you second, Director Katz?
That's correct.
Yes. So we have Vice President Coleman nominated, Director Linney, and Director Katz second.
All right. Any other motions, nominations?
I would move that the nominations be closed.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second for closing nominations. Then I guess our next item is to take a vote on that.
Correct.
Last chance. All right, a call for a vote by roll call.
Director Coleman.
Yes.
Director Katz.
Yes.
Director McIntosh.
Yes.
Director Mellon.
Yes.
Director Patterson.
Yes.
Director Young.
You bet.
President Linney.
Yes. Well, that carries unanimously. Let me say thank you to everyone for your confidence in my presidency, and appreciate all the good work that all board members do in making this job easier. And a reminder that if there's ever anything that we need to talk about publicly or privately, I'm available for that. So let's go on to the election of the vice president. The floor is now open for nominations for Vice President of the Board for 2022, and I'm going to take the President's prerogative to nominate my current Vice President to be my continued Vice President, John Coleman.
I'll second that.
All right, here, Frank, giving a second to that. Are there any other nominations? All right, do I have a
Nominating
motion?
would be repetitive, Doug, but I would move that the nominations be closed.
Okay. I've got a motion by Frank to close the nominations and a second by Director Patterson. I didn't hear Director Coleman object to anything here, so I assume we're all good, and ask for a roll call vote.
Director Coleman?
Yes.
Director Katz?
Yes.
Director McIntosh?
Yes.
Director Mellon?
Yes.
Director Patterson?
Yes.
Director Young?
Yes.
President Linney?
I was worried there for a moment. That's a yes.
Okay, and if I can make a quick comment, Doug, I think Doug has done a phenomenal job, as did Marguerite prior during the pandemic, having to lead the board and the policies and everything else. And I'm honored to continue to work with Doug. So thank you.
Thank you, John. And for those of you who may not be familiar with our traditions, shall we say, and that this looks like the fix was in, it is standard procedure that we generally have board presidents serve for 2 years. So again, I thank everyone anyway, because it is the prerogative of the board to change horses at any time that way. Okay, so the 2020 board committee assignment preferences, the Secretary's office has sent the board committee preferences form to board members by email. Please provide your preferences to the district secretary by Friday, January 14th. That's this Friday. And proposed assignments will be discussed and considered at the January 25th regular meeting. Frank.
I don't know that I've seen that form.
It was sent.
Nor I.
The form, you should have received the form in the email announcing the board meetings. Robin sent that email on Friday afternoon. And if you don't have the form, we will definitely get it out to you today.
Thank you.
Please.
Okay, will do.
All right, we'll resend that around. There are no announcements from closed session. So we are now on to our public comment. If members of the board of the public wish to speak on agenda or non-agenda items, please use the raise your hand feature in Zoom. Comments on non-agenda items will be heard at the beginning of the meeting. And comments on agenda items, agendized items, will be heard as the item is up for consideration. When prompted, please state your name, affiliation, if applicable, and topic. Please refrain from providing personal information such as addresses or phone numbers during public comment. If we need this information, we'll have you contact staff. The secretary will call each speaker in the order received. Each speaker is allotted 3 minutes to speak, however, have the discretion to amend this time based on the number of speakers. The secretary will track time and inform each speaker when the allotted time is concluded. Please make every effort to stay within those 3 minutes. We hate to cut you off partway. Let's go on. Or do we have speakers at this point in time?
At the moment, we have 3, and I'll let you know as we continue. The first speaker is Nick Lawrence. You should be able to unmute your mic, and your 3 minutes start now.
Testing, is this microphone live?
Yes, it is.
We can hear you.
Thank you. Greetings again, East Bay MUD employees, members of the public, my friends on the board, and General Manager Chan. Welcome to another episode of A Dangerous Condition of Public Property, namely the out-of-service fire hydrant H14100, putting lives and properties, ratepayers, and East Bay MUD itself at risk since March 11, 2020, when East Bay MUD's 8-inch broke. Gotta ask, was the pipe even in the right place? I'm Nick Lawrence of Orinda, your host for this episode 10 called The Gong Show. My email is eastbaymud@nicklarence.com. Today, we'll talk more about what happened, the resulting dangerous condition, and who knew what and when. You can join the posse too, if you like. You there, with your hand up.
Didn't I read about some ultrasonic early leak detection equipment they use?
Well, you and me both, but maybe it isn't used after 5 p.m. or in places where the pipes are known to break.
Oh, like the mini service lateral leaks on Tappan Terrace?
Well, the crews all knew because they patched up those leaks many times over the years, including yet another service lateral leak on March 11, 2020.
But there must have been a lot of rain too.
Nope, a dry year it was, with no recent rain, and there are eyewitnesses.
And after their water main broke, did they fix it? What did they say?
Well, they asked where was the lake, because it certainly couldn't be their treated water that washed out neighbor Brown's front yard and damaged several other properties, including mine.
So they just ran a 2-inch rubber blue hose to the fire hydrant?
Yes, wrapped it around trees and rocks they did, over curbs and driveways to supply water to 6 homes and the neighborhood's only fire hydrant.
So who knew how little flow could come through a 2-inch hose?
Well, not Jimmy Yaloy, director of construction, because he told me, same pressure, not to worry, just call the public relations department.
Anyone else?
Well, certainly not David Rangstrom, planning manager, who allowed the fire department to believe the 2-inch flows was the same as an 8-inch pipe.
How about Carlton Chan, the general manager's brother?
Well, yes, he called me at his brother's request, and he certainly knew because he promised a quick replacement of the 2-inch hose with an 8-inch pipe.
Oh, so the problem is all fixed.
Well, not hardly. 9 months later, it's still the same puny 2-inch rubber hose with bad chemicals and such poor flow, the hydrant is still declared out of service.
And this is good practice?
Not at all. Unsafe it is, dangerous too, and inconsistent with AWA's policies and East Bay Mud's own strategic plan.
So your fire hydrant still is out of service?
Yes, along with over 45 additional East Bay Mud fire hydrants, all paid for by us ratepayers. Maybe the one near your home.
Well, what does the board know?
Well, just ask them. They're all right here.
How about General Manager Chan?
Well, they all know whose bonus will be docked if the defective hydrant leads to loss of life or homes burning.
What's next?
Well, tune in again next meeting, same time for episode 11 of A Dangerous Condition of Public Property. Okay, we're on the official record and out of time. And posse members, keep those tips coming to East Bay Mud at NICKLAWREMCE.com. That's it for now.
Next, we have Casey Evans. Casey, you should be able to unmute your mic.
Thank you so much.
Your 3 minutes start now.
Thank you. Mr. Lawrence, my heart goes out to you. I just want you to know I hear you, I feel you, and it does matter, and I do care. So I am hopeful for you. So thank you, President Linney, and congratulations, members of the board and all staff. This is Casey Evans. I'm sure you all know I'm from here. So as I've said before, when you see something, you should say something. And so I just wanted to take time to say what I recently saw. I saw the board listen and hear staff's comments about wages and the disrespected negotiations. I saw that you, as a board, responded to the voices and stories that you heard. And I wanted to thank you for calling a special board meeting to acknowledge that you can see and respect staff and the continuous dedication they show. A commitment that recently, especially, is not necessarily well-deserved or reciprocated within the company and its halls. I must say that East Bay Mud has become a bit of a disappointment to staff and a thankless, behind closed doors, discriminatory, and very vengeful place to be. Nevertheless, my reason for coming in today is to thank you as board members for showing an olive branch of respect and acknowledgement to your staff. And I hope that this type of sentiment can continue in the future. And while I have a minute left, I want to continue to tell the frontline staff, thank you. From the mail and remittance room to all 4 yards, the emergency operations, our wastewater folks, and everybody else in between. You may not hear it and feel it enough, but please know that you are appreciated. Thank you for your time.
Next, we have Eric L. Eric, you should be able to unmute your mic. Your 3 minutes will
Thank you,
start now.
Lisa. This is Eric Larson, President, Appleton Local 444. I'd like to provide comments on item number 22.
Okay. And Gary 2, you should be able to unmute your mic and your 3 minutes will start now.
Thank you, Rika. Hello, Doug, Board of Directors, Clifford, and all others in attendance. My name is Gary Walters II, and I'm basically an East Bay Mud lifer. This agency paid for my prenatal care. I've worked here over half of my life, and next month, that will be 25 years of service. One of my parents was a supervisor here for 15 years while I was growing up. I was hired at a relatively young age and worked in the field for almost 16 years as a laborer and plumber. And now I've worked in engineering for the past 9 years as a designer. I understand the importance of balancing the needs of competing priorities, especially at an agency of this magnitude. I would like to first thank our Emergency Operations Director, his team, and our Regulatory Compliance Office for their diligence in monitoring and adapting to the ever-changing science, regulations, and protective measures that have been utilized to keep our staff and the public safe during these unprecedented times for 22 months now. I would also like to bring this board's attention to the importance of our Human Resources Department and their impact on the overall culture here at East Bay Mud. There are currently 2 significant gaps in the leadership and another that will be vacated in the upcoming months. After 30 plus years of service, the manager of recruitment and classification will be retiring soon. The role of RNC is essential in bringing in the right people to this agency and providing them with the mindset that is conducive to the DEI strategic plans that are being developed and implemented at this time. We recently lost another great asset that was our manager of employee relations. It is unfortunate that the atmosphere wasn't such that we could have retained this talented individual. The benefits to a healthy relationship between human resources and union leadership are easily underestimated, as well as the impacts of that relationship on the culture here at the district. We also lost the manager of the managers of human resources for various reasons. I implore you to consider the overall impacts to our culture of an individual in this role, from recruitment to diversity to developing our existing assets and retaining them, and how the decisions and recommendations they make can support and build on the momentum that was started by identifying East Bay Mud's values of stewardship, integrity, teamwork, and respect. I thank you for this time and your efforts to address the many priorities here at the district. Please consider the feedback I have provided when considering the appointments to these critical roles that will help shape our future. Happy New Year and best wishes to all as we continue to discover what our new normal will be. And I pray that this year will truly not be 2020 Part 2.
Great, thank you, Gary. And my apologies to Casey. I think I was on mute when she spoke, and I gave her thanks for coming.
Next, we have Yvette Rivera. Yvette, you should be able to unmute your mic. And your 3 minutes will start now. You're welcome.
Thank you. For those of you that don't know, this is my 3rd round of speaking in front of the directors of the board today. I know that today the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Strategic Plan is probably going to be accepted by the board. My opinion is that it's just another attempt by the district to address misogyny, racism, and equity at the district. We have directors that have worked up to 31 years at the district, and it just always feels like we're starting at square one. Actually, for those of us still suffering from misogyny, discrimination, and harassment at the district, it feels like we're at negative square 10. In the spirit of transparency, I wanted to talk about a public document that was filed by East Bay Mud last week against Saji Pierce and Ariel Bland. Their case, as people must know by now, is the Pierce Bland case against Craig Spencer, Laura Costa, and East Bay MUD. The document that was filed last week is the district's response to Pierce and Bland's amended complaint. In that document, there are 27 affirmative defenses. And for those of you that don't know what affirmative defenses are, I'm going to just read one for you. I'm just going to pick number 4. Defendants' actions were not willful. Defendants are informed and believe thereon allege that plaintiff's first amended complaint and each cause of action alleged therein is barred in whole or in part, and or recovery is precluded because the conduct of East Bay MUD was not willful or intentional. So there are 27 affirmative defenses, and that's just part of the document. The reason why I bring that up is because this morning I asked the board, or not the board, East Bay MUD to provide me a new document request, public document request. And I've asked East Bay MUD to produce the affirmative defenses that they used against Stanley McIntosh and Frank Irvin, because I'd like to compare the affirmative defenses, not only from the Stanley and McIntosh, the Irving and McIntosh complaint. I'd like to compare the defenses that were used against me and other cases at East Bay MUD. And I'm just going to end this comment period by reading a few lines from the McIntosh case. Plaintiff Stanley McIntosh alleges and complains that he is a Black man who has a high school diploma and 30 years of experience with a defendant company. He has been discriminated against on the basis of his race and color in the following ways. 1, plaintiff has not been promoted while white employees of equal or less experience, training, and competence were promoted. Plaintiff has achieved and or passing scores on written promotional exams, but has been dropped to low rankings following oral and other subjectively scored examinations. Plaintiff was denied a promotion to the position of pipe foreman, while 3 white employees with less training and experience than him were promoted into that position based upon the white employee's higher ranking on an oral exam, which the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission found reasonable cause to believe was discriminatory. Plaintiff has
Your
been
3
denied
minutes
training
have
opportunity.
concluded. Yvette, if you could wrap up, please.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and submit this document to the district. I'm not sure if I can just, if you can tell me, Risha, can I submit it via email today? Will it make it onto the public record for today, or will it make it onto the next public record submission period?
The next one.
Okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right, do we have any other speakers?
No, we just have Eric Larson for item 22.
Okay.
I just had another hand go up, so give me one moment. Jennifer Gray, you should be able to unmute your mic.
Good afternoon, you guys. Thanks for hearing me again.
Your 3 minutes will
Jen.
start now.
Thank you. I'm an HTO for East Bay MUD. I'd like to reiterate my support for some of the prior comments made, and I support the poor man with only one fire hydrant. We in the field are out here all day with fellow citizens that are hurting, frustrated, scared, fed up, and struggling. We see child abuse, animal abuse, dodge the violence, work around the homeless and their waste. And by waste, I mean their feces and their urine, literally. There's also copious amounts of rotting garbage and rats that we sometimes have to move in order to work where we need to work. We can be all too close to shootings, verbal abuse, and at the same time having to watch out for our fellow crew members and maintain a safe and respectful workspace. In these times, our jobs are harder physically as well as emotionally. I say all of this to express how draining it can be. PTSD can definitely come into play. Many of us came to work here and finally felt appreciated, and we were able to buy the car we needed instead of the old jalopy that we held together with duct tape and string. We were able to help our children leave the nest. We were able to buy houses, and then COVID hit. Nothing is the same, and everything is worse. We need your help and support to get through this time. And as was mentioned here earlier, inflation is no longer considered transitory. Add to that, and I beg of all of you to go to california.gov and look up Bill ACA 11 and see what the next thing is this state is going to try to implement. It could very well double our taxes that we already pay. We need your help, or you could risk losing a great many of your knowledgeable workforce. And then you will see how East Bay MUD and their goals will no longer be met. Your customers will see it, feel it, and there will literally be a trickle-down effect if you can't help your powerful and knowledgeable workforce stay, not only at East Bay MUD, but in the state of California. We hear your words of appreciation, but we need more than that, and we need it now, especially in these trying and difficult times. Please come to the negotiating table with an offer that will powerfully help all of us. Let us feel your appreciation, not just hear it. I thank you for your time, and I hope you have a beautiful, blessed day.
Thank you, Jennifer. Jennifer, could you remind me again your job at East Bay MUD?
I am a truck driver.
Okay.
I'm the only female truck driver in Pipeline. And these guys, you know, we're good teams. We're good out here. We do our job and we do it well. And these guys are really amazing. I invite any of you to come out anytime. Not just for one day, though, because you could come out on a perfect day and everything goes right. But when it goes wrong, these guys are amazing. They truly are.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thanks.
Thank you for sharing that with us today.
I would comment, Jennifer, that when I was an employee, I went out with Gary Bradley Sr., and he took me from one end to the other. He made sure I saw the good, bad, and the ugly. So I appreciate what you said. Thank you so much.
All right. Do we have any other speakers?
We have none.
Okay, we will then we'll close the comment period for non-agenda items and move on to the consent calendar. Do we have any items need to be pulled? If not,
Doug, if I could pull item 13.
Okay. Anyone else? Otherwise, maybe a motion?
Move the remainder.
I'll second the remainder.
Okay. So we have a motion by Director McIntosh, seconded by Director Coleman for all items on the consent calendar except for item 13. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Director Coleman?
Yes.
Director Katz?
Yes.
Director McIntosh?
Yes.
Director Mellon?
Yes.
Director Patterson?
Yes.
Director Young?
Yes.
President Linney?
Yes. All right, item 13. John.
Great, thank you. I think it's great what we're doing with Yuba on the water contract, and I did have some conversations yesterday with Clifford about it. And one of the questions I asked is whether can we, if we don't need the water and we receive it, can we sell it? And really, it's not advantageous to do that. It could, and I understand how it could set up a negative reaction with Yuba water by doing that, one. And two, I asked if it could be stored in Los Vaqueros, and really the need is probably at this point minimal. What I would hope, I know it's $300,000 we're looking at spending to go to the next step with this contract. And I would like, the amount of money that we've paid or will pay for the 25,000 acre feet is important. And if it can't be used because we end up having a wet season, put it that way, which would be awesome. I think everybody'd like that. To look at putting it in, if it can be put in conjunctive use projects in Bayside or the Dream Project. And that way it then allows us to continue doing conjunctive use. And it allows in times of the future drought to have more water stored to minimize our impact on our operations. And so I know Clifford or Michael want to speak to that.
Yeah, Mike Tognelli is here. He can respond to that question. Director Coleman.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. In response to the question, Director Coleman, we have already made arrangements for water to be available for a Dream project. We did recently get a petition approved at the State Water Resources Control Board to divert additional flow if it's available, if it is in fact a wet year, for the Dream project to store this year. And for Bayside, the same situation applies, that if we have enough water in our local runoff, assuming again it's a wet season, we would have sufficient water to inject at Bayside as well. So the need for additional water from Yuba we wouldn't necessarily need the additional water from Yuba in order to put in the ground at either of these locations this year.
Mike, that's assuming that we have a wet season, correct?
Correct.
And what forecasted runoff needs in May need to be in order to say that we don't need this water?
Over 500, 75% exceedance we're going to be spilling locally.
Okay, so Dave Briggs was just giving me some information.
I heard him in the background.
Under a 75% exceedance, so 75% of the, a 75% chance, so to speak, that we will have local reservoir spilling and therefore have enough local water to inject at Bayside.
And is it correct, though, that we would not look at reselling that water to another party if we don't need it? And how much has been spent thus far on the water for the purchase of the 25,000 acre feet?
We could, the agreement does allow for remarketing, so it is something we could consider. If we get to the point where we decide that it's worth purchasing the water at that point and then trying to remarket it. But in all likelihood, we would be able to determine at that point in time that it would be less expensive for us to just not purchase the water than to purchase it and try to remarket it.
Okay. And how much have we spent thus far on the water, on the Yuba water contract?
We haven't spent anything yet. It's for the board to consider today, and that $300,000. That $300,000 is for the permitting and environmental work that needs to be done in order to have that transfer option available come April. And then in April, we would come back to the board, or actually before April, come back to the board with a decision of whether or not to actually purchase the water. So the $300,000 is simply to do the permitting work so that we're in a position to have that option available to us in the spring.
Okay. Thank you for answering my questions on that. I'll move item 13.
Second. All right, motion by Director Coleman, seconded by Director Patterson. Let's have a roll call vote on item 13.
Director Coleman?
Yes.
Director Katz?
Yes.
Director McIntosh?
Yes.
Director Mellon?
Yes.
Director Patterson?
Yes.
Director Young? Director Young?
My mute button was going back and forth. Yes.
President
Just
Linney.
enjoying some of that that Chile tradition there.
No.
Yes, on that also. So that's approved unanimously. We're on to determination and discussion. And I'll let Clifford.
Yeah, so for the first item, item 17, President Linney, I'd like to pull that item for a future meeting. And so we can move on to item 18. And item 18, we have Marlene with the legislative update, and we also have Eric Saperstein joining us.
Doug, if I could, I'd like to, when Eric's time comes, I'd like to make a comment or two if I could.
And that time is
Hope it's appropriate.
now. What we would like to do is have Eric give an overview of what's happening in Washington, and then I'll follow with a discussion of the proposed legislative initiatives.
So before you speak, Eric, it's come to my attention that you've been hanging around this East Bay Mud place for a year or two, maybe 30. And that 30 years is remarkable. You know, having had an opportunity to see what the folks do over at Aqua and the kind of information they get, and comparing that to the high quality information we get from you, there's no comparison. are head and shoulders above anything that's out there. And I have been very appreciative. And I'm hoping that we can provide you with a little something to say thank you for the outstanding work that you've done over the 30 years and look forward to working with you going out into the future. On a side note, the two of us have been hanging around so long that we've watched our kids grow up. So I want to, and thank you, Doug, for letting me take a moment to say these things, because really and truly, it needs to be said. It's not often that someone, having been a consultant in my own other life before here, it's not often that someone can say they've been a consultant with an organization for 30 years. So well done, Eric. Thank you so much for all that you've given us.
President Linney, could I respond out of?
Yeah, of course. Go ahead, Eric. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Director Mellon, and that's very nice. And all I can say, in order not to prolong the agony of my presentation, is that it is always an honor and a pleasure to represent East Bay MUD, and that's all. I'm not good at taking compliments, but thank you very, very much to all of you.
Thank you, Eric. We really do appreciate the longevity of watching the changes over the years and giving us a perspective on it. Really makes a big difference.
Thank you.
In addition, I would add, in the friendship, welcome, Eric.
Thank you, sir.
So now the floor is Eric's.
Are you ready to take it away, Eric, and provide your overview?
After the big build-up?
I'm sorry.
After the big build-up? Better be good.
Yeah. let me pull myself together. First of all, what I was going to say was Happy New Year to all, and I hope that in the next couple of months we get back to somewhat of a new normal and that we can all see each other face to face. And my congratulations to President Linney and Vice President Coleman. What I thought I'd do today, in the interest of time and because we are virtual, give you a top line summary of where we are with the political landscape, what we can expect in the next couple of months of activity before Congress, and also obviously talk about where we are today. So at the outset, what I want to say is that what I'm going to tell you is in alignment with the 2022 federal priorities that I understand Marlene briefed the Human Resources Legislative Committee earlier today. That's before the full board today. The issues that are in that align with last year's issues. Many of the issues carry forward at the federal level for 2 years. It doesn't just end after year one. And I also want to note that the alignment, what is going on with priorities are consistent with the administration's priorities for environmental justice and addressing underserved as well as disadvantaged communities. So all real good, as well as the climate action plan and what have you. But let me first go into the political landscape, if you will, of where we're at. So a lot of this is not going to be news to you. We have a very slim majority in the House and in the Senate. In the House, we have a 4-seat majority. And at this stage of the game, we're looking at 26 Democratic retirements and a handful of Republican retirements. So whatever happens in the midterms with the House of Representatives, whether it's Democratic retention or Republican control, we will have a whole lot of new faces in Congress next year. But for now, the Democratic majority rules by 4 votes, and you've seen Speaker Pelosi successfully hold the Democratic caucus together in moving the infrastructure bill through the House, as well as the Build Back Better plan. In the Senate, where most of the action is taking place today, it's a 50-50 Senate. You know that. You need a majority of 60 votes to move any legislation through the Senate, which is why things are moving slowly in the Senate. But then, of course, the issue of reconciliation, which is commonly referred to these days as Build Back Better plan that the administration put forward with its social spending programs as well as climate change programs in that plan of action is stuck because you're using the reconciliation process to move the budget forward and include these programs in the budget process. But because of Senator Joe Manchin from West Virginia and Kristen Sinema from Arizona, both Democrats, holding concerns over provisions related to spending levels as well as some programmatic issues, the Senate is in sort of a deadlock situation until they can come together on a agreement that compromises both spending levels and focusing that spending into program areas that can reach consensus within the Democratic caucus. If they reach agreement, which we hope they will in the coming months, not in the coming weeks, then we will have a vote of 50 Democratic senators affirmative, and Vice President Kamala Harris will be the tie-breaking vote moving that legislation forward. The legislation then, of course, politically will have to go back to the House of Representatives to be accepted because it will be different than the package the House moved earlier or late last year to the Senate. But that's where we are from a political landscape looking forward. I would say with respect to even if there is a change in party control in either the House or the Senate, California's large congressional delegation will remain to have incredible clout within the legislative process simply because of the number of votes that the legislative delegation has compared to other states. So California will still play an oversized role going forward in policymaking issues. And then, of course, if you look at the political landscape, the issues that are going to drive the debates over the next couple of months are going to be the economy, inflation, and social policies, all of which are encapsulated by the Build Back Better plan. So for our purposes, if you said what else is out there that causes challenges to getting legislative through, it is the COVID issue. And we are hopeful that come March, April timeframe that COVID will recede and the legislative process will begin to call it unstick itself, and we'll go back to normal legislating process where people can meet in person and talk about the issues of concern rather than through virtual or email activities. So if we look at the issues that are pending in Congress right now from a sort of top level point of view, there are a couple of 2021 year carryovers, and then we've got the 22 legislative agenda. So from a carryover perspective, there are two big issues. The first is the FY22 budget, which in theory is always enacted on time, which it isn't, on October 1 of the year before the calendar year that it notes. So October 1 of 2021 was supposed to be when the spending bills for fiscal year 22 at the federal level would be enacted into law. That, as usual, didn't happen. We're in a continuing resolution until February 18th. And we are hopeful that by February 18th, the House and the Senate appropriators will reach an agreement on a comprehensive, what we call an omnibus spending bill. That's important because in this spending bill is the USL, Upper San Leandro, earmark congressional directed spending of approximately $3.5 million that would be part of any final spending agreement. We are absolutely hopeful that that will happen by February 18th. If for some reason the sort of gridlock that is characterized by Washington these days, if that doesn't happen by February 18th, we expect another short-term spending bill to be enacted into law to see if they can reconcile differences. I have to be honest with you, if in fact they can't come to an agreement and they do a year-long continuing resolution, stopgap spending bill, then the earmarks or congressionally directed spending go by the wayside for everybody. And that's why we're expecting that they'll cut agreement, because the spending bills that have earmarks in them are being provided to all members of Congress that asked for funding assistance with respect to Republican or Democratic. So there's a lot of vested interest to get this legislation through. The other issue I mentioned earlier was the Build Back Better plan. As I mentioned, the House passed it last year before they went out of session. It's a $1.9 trillion bill. Senator Joe Manchin in the Senate has, as you've probably read, rejected that number, said he wants to do something closer to 1.5 trillion. That's that $400 million delta is a big gap they have to figure out how to fill. They also have some challenges with things like child tax credits and paid family leave from a programmatic standpoint that Senator Manchin doesn't really like. Not that he's against it, he doesn't like it being used, being put into place through the budget process. So we just have to see if the Senate leadership for the Democratic side of the column can come to a deal in the next couple of months. But those are the two sort of outstanding issues that come over from 2021 and will influence the next several months of the second session in 2022 of Congress. Then, if we look at sort of what other issues could be taken up by the Congress in 2022 that are new, you've got to deal with the fiscal year 23 budget. And I want to emphasize that's important because even though we had this massive debate over what the Build Back Better plan should be and how much investments there should be in the climate change bill and whatever else, Congress is still going to put in place annual spending bills to address ongoing program needs. So the president's budget will go to Congress. Usually it goes the first Monday in February. It will be delayed till probably March, in part because they are still fighting over the FY22 spending bills, but also because the president intends to give his State of the Union speech on March 1st, and they would like to position that first and then send the budget up to Congress after the president has his opportunity to tell Congress and the country what his priorities are for the coming year. I would say that from sort of a catch-all other issues, I think we're going to see continued efforts to address emerging contaminants of concern in drinking water legislatively. That will be something that will be looked at. And I also think that as far as Western drought issues go and water scarcity issues in general, fully expect that that will be subject to congressional reviews and oversight, simply because there is no doubt that climate change has captured Congress's attention in a substantive manner, and water scarcity is a little bit like the canary in the coal mine as far as what kind of impacts climate change is creating for the communities at large. And then, of course, I would also note that from a sort of environmental justice serving disadvantaged communities, underserved communities, fully expect the administration to continue advocating and pushing the implementation of its priorities to ensure that federal project assistance is funneled to those types of communities to address the needs that have not been addressed over decades. So that's where we are in 2022 for other issues out there. What I would say is, going back to the priorities of the 2022 legislative platform, is that they are in very good alignment with both the administration's priorities as well as the issues of concern that the Congress legislatively will consider. So it's, whether you want to say it's serendipitous or planned, what the district is pursuing as priorities are incredibly lined up with the priorities of Washington. And I would also mention that when Vice President Harris visited the district and to tour the Upper San Leandro project, that was an incredible recognition, I believe, of what the district's priorities are and what it has accomplished over the years, and that the administration took note of it too. So I think, just from a maybe a pat on your collective backs, you should take great pride in the fact that that occurred. Very few water agencies have received that kind of recognition by the administration. So, President Linney, I will say at this point that I will answer any questions folks have, or if I missed anything, happy to expound on it.
Thank you, Eric. John has his hand up.
Yeah, thank you. I
have
wasn't
my
sure if
mute
I
on.
pushed. Thank you. I wasn't sure if I pushed it or not. Eric, thank you for the great report. Although in one area, I must say it was very lacking. I'm sorry. I've always enjoyed your graphics and injecting a little bit of humor into it. And I know it's not a humorous time right now, but maybe that's important to have sometimes. It helps it just makes it easier to swallow sometimes what you have to say. So I missed that part of it.
You know, I think that's when we return to the new normal, and some of the editorial cartoons are a little more lighthearted and positive, that opportunity will present itself again.
Well, thank you. Again, so I just would point, and I also wanted to reiterate what both Director Mellon and Patterson said. You've done a phenomenal job representing our interest in DC, and I don't think we'd be where we are today with our relationships in DC if we didn't have you and your team in DC pulling the effort for East Bay MUD. So thank you very much on that.
Thank you very much.
Quick question, climate change. So we're lined up with the administration and Congress right now. In the midterms, if things change, how do you envision climate change? Is that going to fall off the table based on some of the people who may go into leadership positions in either the House or the Senate that could have, they are skeptical of climate change, or they can't say the word climate change, or they never took a science class?
Well, let me suggest a couple of things to answer that substantively. So we've had this raging debate, or at least it's been the specter of whether climate change exists or doesn't exist over the last 15 odd years. And today, I think what we have is we have this terminology, climate resilience, which seems for some folks to be a lot easier to say out loud than climate change. What has happened in the budget process, it doesn't approach what's in the Build Back Better plan and what's in to some degree what's in the infrastructure bill. But we've continued to see a lot of programs benefit on the annual appropriations process to address some of the impacts of climate change, whether it's disaster response or pre-disaster mitigation response assistance, and NOAA and the Corps of Engineers and others doing forecast-informed reservoir operation analyses to get better timed information to deal with releases or no releases of water behind reservoirs and things of that, if they're flood protection reservoirs, for example. I think you've got a sort of baseline of activity. It doesn't come close to what we need, right, to accommodate the needs that are out there, particularly when you think about electrifying vehicles and whatever else. But at the end of the day, I think you will see, if they get the Build Back Better plan through, you will see, because this is a reconciliation measure or a budget measure, you will see actual dollars committed that can't be, it'd be very difficult to reverse the funding commitments. And one of the interesting things that Joe Manchin has said is he is not against a climate package, which is interesting. I think, you know, his point is, let's make certain where we put the money in, we give the coal industry some kind of, I won't call it assistance, but that we ease transition of those workers into new opportunities, call it workforce transition. And I would mention that that's an area that's shared concern-wise by many of your members of the delegation in the Bay Area. So I think those things will happen along, and it will be addressed irrespective of who controls Congress in the coming year.
Great. Thank you so much.
Anyone else? Bill, go ahead.
Eric, based on most recent reporting, last night I was listening to a Washington-based program, and they talk about climate change and its effect, and the fact that occurrences that occurred 2 years ago in 89 days were now occurring in 18 days, that over $1 trillion has been lost in terms of the damage caused by attributable climate change productions in the environment. And I'm saying it appears to me that we're moving in a time where we have an administration that believes in and understands climate change. It was not recognized in the prior presidential administration. So don't we have a better chance this time going in of getting some fulfillment based on what we have seen and experienced, the number of deaths and whatnot? The only thing that outdid that is COVID. So there I lay at your foot your opinion.
So I would agree with you on the points that you've raised. I would say to you, when you look at what's going on in the impacts of disasters and the costs associated with the disasters, and this gets back to the climate resiliency argument and folks focusing on that as sort of a, let's call it a palatable response to the demands that we focus our resources in areas to help mitigate the impacts of disaster. There's a renewed and increased emphasis on providing federal assistance to pre-disaster mitigation efforts, which has become almost an accepted way of addressing things. Clearly not enough funding for those kind of programs, but growing funding for those programs. And I would also say that the administration, from the president on down, has made a priority from a policy objective to ensure that whatever programs are out there where it's a viable option, that you make certain that you address issues, take into account resiliency, and to address with federal monies impacts, whether it's sea level rise, drought, or anything in between.
Thank you.
Eric, I have a question just with regards to earmarks. I know at one time it certainly seemed like, well, it didn't seem like they had gotten rid of the whole earmarks thing. And so just to be clear, they're back?
They are back. They are back with the same old caveat that you now have an agreement between the Republicans and the Democrats in both chambers that we will have a process, which is the process that that you folks followed with respect to requests, and that's what resulted in the Upper San Leandro earmark of $3.5 million through EPA. And the only challenge is going forward. They will keep those earmarks in place. They will probably keep the lid, if you will. The agreement was that you'd have 1% of funding at the federal level dedicated to members' requests for earmarks or congressionally or directed or community projects, as they're calling them now. And so they've developed a process that is transparent, committed to providing public benefits as opposed to private sector benefits, and there's general agreement that this is a process that can go forward. Now, does it stay in place forever? A lot of it will depend on what happens after the elections, but at this stage of the game, given the number of Republican members in both chambers that ask for earmarks, there seems to be a critical mass of support for doing it and doing it right, which is essentially transparency.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that clarification. Any other questions from board members? All right, Eric, thank you very much for the information and for your service and continuing service.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Happy New Year, Eric.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. With that, we have the federal initiatives for 2022 that we're proposing. We did have a conversation about them in this morning's Ledge HR committee. I'll pause in case there's any comment from the committee before I go into the initiatives.
Sure, Marlene. We did hold the meeting this morning, and the 5 initiatives were approved by the 3 committee members to send forward to the board today.
And the 5, we have 5 initiatives proposed. And again, these are looking at district priorities and congressional priorities, as well as priorities of the Biden administration, looking for that intersection. Our first one is climate change resiliency. And at the federal level, through that lens, what we're looking at as part of climate change resiliency, wildfire prevention and forest and watershed health, climate adaptation and mitigation, and workforce transition. On the wildfire prevention, the focus has been on forested lands that are federal lands. We think that's going to continue, where they're looking at forest management activities. Director Coleman, had asked about the state requirements on timber management, and we have an answer to that question. The question was, do the state timber management requirements apply to federal lands? And the answer is no. The state requirements apply to private landowners. And the idea is really, it's like a CEQA process for the private landowners for timber management. So the federal requirements would be essentially NEPA. The state requirements would be for public lands would be CEQA, and then the timber harvest plan requirements for those private lands. We think that there's going to be continued focus here. Obviously, we have continued wildfire issues in the western states, coupled with drought. And as you know, a lot of our watershed lands in the McCollum are owned by the U.S. Forest Service.
Thank you for that response back, Marlene. I guess it's discouraging because for the members who are not in the meeting this morning, I was hoping that we could at least entertain or talk about the idea on federal lands where there's excess timber that needs thinning for fire fuel reduction. I'm not talking clear cuts, that the timber harvest plan, the THPs, would be applicable like they are on private lands. And I know that there's some concerns with the environmental community that it could run rampant where people are chopping everything down, which nobody wants to see. I sure don't want to see that. And I would hope that if discussions ensue, because I know from being on the UMRA since its inception, this is a huge issue up there. And when we had the fire above Pardee several years ago, we actually had to cease moving water through Pardee because of the amount of debris that came down and was going to mess up our hydro facilities and the water quality delivering into the Bay Area due to the amount of debris. And that was a bad fire, but it wasn't like some of the fires in the last couple of years. And the concern I have, and I think a lot of people who've worked on UMRA issues, is that a major catastrophe could ensue. And we could have done some things to minimize the damage. And one of them is to do the appropriate kind of thinning on trees in order to make that happen. And I would like if it starts to have that discussion, I would like to be part of that discussion and have either from the environmental flank of the board, I mean, the board's environmental, but either President Linney or Director Young be part of that discussion, working with the environmental NGOs that have this as an issue. I don't want to see clear cutting. I want to see proper timber harvest management. And I don't want to see the forest going up in flames either. Right now, not enough money, time, and effort is being spent, even with the governor's proposal. That came out a couple of days ago to do forest management, I think, because the severity of this issue is so strong and high.
Any other comments or questions on that? Okay. Thank you, Director Coleman, that's helpful. On the efforts to mitigate and adapt to climate change, portion of the climate change, that's broad, that's intentionally broad. There's a lot of federal discussion here. If Build Back Better is in fact enacted, there will be a lot of activity we expect on the implementation side of that. And then on workforce development and transition, that really is the same with the Build Back Better. Expect if that does go through, there are some high level provisions there, but really the activity that would be most meaningful for us would be on the implementation side of that. And that really is about transitioning to the green economy and transitioning the workforce as well. Any questions on that before I move on? Okay, next one is contaminants of emerging concern. This is one that we brought forward last year as well. The focus here really is on the PFAS and the PFOAs, a focus on producer responsibility, on standard adoption, and also waste designation. There's a lot of work here at the National Association level on these issues. And so we are monitoring this closely and looking specifically for how it would affect East Bay MUD and also seeking opportunities to engage where appropriate. Next is cybersecurity. And this is here for the foreseeable future. This is a big issue. It's becoming increasingly important. The water and wastewater sector are something that the administration is focused on. They consider it very important. And the infrastructure plan had some high-level cybersecurity provisions. We expect to see more conversation looking at, are there policy changes that need to happen? Are there plans that need to be adopted? And are there resources that need to be provided to help the water and wastewater sector on cybersecurity? So we are watching this closely and looking for ways to provide meaningful input so that we end up with policies that are helpful and protective. The next one is funding, and you'll see the way we're looking at funding this year is we've added ratepayer assistance to the overall funding conversation. So we're looking at funding kind of three mechanisms. One is the funding that is part of infrastructure bills. And we did provide an info memo on the Infrastructure Act that was signed into law at the federal level. The most significant part of that was the recognition of water and wastewater infrastructure as part of the nation's infrastructure. At least for this current approach, not a lot of funding opportunities for East Bay MUD, but still very important that water and wastewater is recognized. The other measure is Build Back Better. The second aspect of funding is the budget process, and that's the earmarks. So one is pursuing the USL funding request, hopefully to completion. With the next round of spending bill consideration by Congress, seeking an opportunity to submit another project funding request. And then also looking for opportunities to get funding off of an earmark that we've had in place for quite a long time that's never gotten funding. And that is our integrated recycled water program earmark. We got that authorization years ago, just before the earmark ban started. So anything that we would get off of that would be a new start, but we're looking for opportunities there as well. On the ratepayer assistance piece, that right now is about EPA's pilot program for rural and low-income assistance. And as Congress looks at that and potentially funds it, we would like to be able to provide feedback on what a good local program looks like, and also seek opportunities if funding is provided for funding to flow to East Bay MUD's ratepayers as well.
Marlene,
Yes.
Has Aqua taken any position on that?
Well, that was under the Infrastructure Act that was signed into law last month. It's a new year, so I'm kind of calendar challenged right now. So that was under the IIJA, the Infrastructure and Investment and Jobs Act. And it was one of the provisions of that. So I'm not aware that they took a position on a specific provision there.
Okay, thank you.
Certainly did work with them and encourage them to engage proactively on rate assistance issues when it was really being talked about in Congress when COVID was starting to take hold.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Marlene,
yes,
it's interesting that our state took a position on that, and this is with the funding, the bumper crop of money that we discovered we had, and the governor saw fit to put some of that money into assisting ratepayers, renters, the whole 9 yards. And it would appear that we struck a chord in Sacramento because any of this money coming down the pike from the feds is going to come through the state. So we have to keep that pipeline open and continue to feed into it because it gets to the basic needs of the people. Thank you for aligning us correctly.
Thank you. Could not agree more. Any more questions on the funding piece before I move to water? Okay, the last one is water supply reliability and natural resource protection. And this one is deceptively short in terms of write-up. And the reason really is it's really broad. We're looking at security for and access to our CVP supplies. We're looking at the McCollum fishery. We're looking at CVP policies as far as the municipal and industrial contractors. We are one of them. And we're also looking at preserving our ability to bring transfer water in through Freeport and that Folsom South Canal. As the drought continues, as climate change continues, the focus on Western water is going to continue. The tone of Congress's conversation changes a little bit each year, and where they're going to particularly look at these issues, we don't know yet. So we want to cast a very wide net here and be focused on anything that could affect the district's environmental situation and water supply reliability. And that is the last one. Any questions?
If there are no questions, Doug, I'd like to make a motion to accept the HR committee report and the 5 proposed 2022 federal strategic plan initiatives.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to accept the initiatives made by Director Coleman, seconded by Director Patterson. Any further comment? Seeing none, let's go ahead and have a roll call vote.
Director Coleman,
Yes.
Director Katz,
Yes.
Director McIntosh,
Yes.
Director Mellon,
Yes.
Director Patterson,
Yes.
Director Young,
Yes.
President Linney.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marlene.
All right, Marlene, any other updates of legislative interest?
Really quickly, just to let you know, at the state level, they came back into session a week ago on Monday and busily working their way to address all of the 2-year bills that are still in the House of Origin. So that would be Assembly bills that were introduced last year that are still in the Assembly, Senate bills that were introduced last year that are still in the Senate. They've got a fast deadline on that. Then we move into bill introduction time. We expect to see about 2,500 additional bills introduced before that bill introduction deadline. This is the second year of a 2-year session. And yesterday, the governor released his budget proposal. Every January, the governor releases his budget proposal, and then he does a revision in May called the May Revise, and then the legislature works on their budget for delivery to him in June. In yesterday's budget, the top line message here is he right now is looking at a $46 billion surplus this year. And about 20 billion of that is considered discretionary spending. He went into a lot of detail on spending proposals with the ongoing message. He said this multiple times. This is just a proposal. It's going to change substantially in the May Revise. But his top line issues are what I wanted to share with you. He had 5 top line issues: COVID response, homelessness, climate change, cost of living, and public safety. Say within cost of living, that was sort of the kitchen sink proposal. There was education, healthcare, housing was all in that. So it's going to be another big budget year. We expect a lot of activity starting right now, going all the way through August, much like last year was. And we'll keep you posted.
Lisa.
Yes, Marlene, I wanted to say we all greatly appreciate Eric's service for the district in DC, but I have to just say thank you for holding us down here in the state. You're doing a great job. Thank you, Marlene.
Yeah,
Thank you, Director McIntosh.
agree.
Here, here.
A lot. Thank you.
All right. On that note, Andy.
Thank you for the update, Eric and Marlene. I wanted to make a brief comment from reading some aspects of top line messaging coming out of the governor's budget proposal. I saw the media reporting, which is not always accurate or comprehensive, capturing some of the governor's proposals regarding climate change and workforce development, casting it as assisting with transition from existing fossil fuel industries to clean energy jobs. And that I think is a important goal where it's feasible and makes the best economic sense. But I am concerned that that the governor's proposal doesn't address the opportunity of including public works and water works in that. So I would encourage engagement on a number of issues related to our priority initiatives, but specifically to explore with the responsible agency proponents of that proposal to consider where do waterworks fall in because of the transferable skills, the relative higher means of living that an agency in our industry provides compared to some of the other industries that might have been under consideration. So the jobs fit might be very much improved if they're considering our industry in terms of job skills and other standard of living considerations. So I think that would be the argument that I would make in terms of having the most cost-effective and efficient workforce transition program alongside transition to other clean energy jobs. So the language and the lingo might be evolving, but in terms of the real nuts and bolts, I would like to see agencies like ours included in that kind of proposal for meaningful workforce transition. There's a lot of details to be worked out, as I explained in a prior board meeting. And I hope that we can be of assistance to the agencies, starting with California in a leadership role. But I think this may involve federal programs as, depending on how the discussions go. So I just wanted to share those thoughts in very brief reaction to the budget, the governor's budget proposal yesterday.
Thank you.
Marguerite?
My button keeps disappearing. That I was going to bring up what Andy just raised, and I know that I've shared this, a number of times, and I think that we need that, we meaning I guess the big water we, the folks that want to see storage have done a really, more storage have done a really good job of putting their message out front. And I think the part of the the infrastructure replacement and renewal underground, the need for wastewater upgrades, et cetera, there's a huge transferable skill there. But I don't think that there's so much fragmentation in the various agencies, energy doesn't know about water and the like, is that I think we have to make the case. And maybe that's, underscoring something that Andy said about taking the part, but it's I would love to see, a white paper from whomever on the industry side, making the case for water infrastructure renewal as part of the fossil fuel, transition. We need the money to put the pipe in the ground. It's really too expensive for us to do it quickly. And we're really the best financially positioned to do it. And we can't afford to do it at the rate that we'd probably really like to do it. But the money that's going into the fossil fuel transition could support a lot of miles of pipeline and a lot of jobs around the state. So I just want to echo that as I think a really important opportunity for us and other agencies, water agencies that have a similar need to put forward.
Can I add something to that? First of all, I want to say, I think that white paper idea is a great idea. And what we're starting to see both at the state and federal level is a consistent focus on this workforce transition. And I was heartened to see that the governor was talking about it, and he had 3 different points on workforce transition. And it feels like it's starting to gel a little bit. It's starting to get a little bit more organized as opposed to just a concept. They're starting to put some meat on it. And so with that, I guess I'm echoing what you're saying. I'm thinking there are going to be some ideas here to help drive and substantially engage in these conversations, because they are starting to get a little bit more structured.
All right, anything else?
President Lemon,
Oh, I'm sorry, Bill, go ahead.
I did want just to say that some of the comments that I had made relevant to the Vice President's kickoff of infrastructure at Upper San Leandro. I used a comparative when I made comments to the body relative to a 150-year-old structure and all the money that we pour into it to keep it operating successfully, and the fact that it has an impact on the very community that the president has expressed we need to keep on the front burner and take care of, because they've been neglected under the environmental justice portion. The EJAC, which is the advisory committee to EPA has also gleaned in on this. And so we do have some interaction going. And I think our general manager is getting ready to dress up some of my remarks as it relates to that, so that we're in on the train. And the emphasis is that they need to pay attention more to the large water and wastewater agencies because of all the things they've perfected. East Bay Mud came up, and by choice of speakers from Berkeley and other places that tuned in on the White House advisory, it was heartening to hear people express positives about East Bay Mud and what they were doing. And it's possible, in my estimation, if I ever get to talk to the director, to use us as a model. You know, we've gone beyond the shores of America. We were overseas and we conducted assistance and captured information that we brought back about the drought, even in Australia. So I think I'm only saying this to say a lot of information we have already assimilated and we're prepared. That's why when the governor said 15%, we were already at 11% that we were saving voluntarily. We didn't have to go far to meet those goals. And I keep emphasizing that that's the knowledge that needs to be given to regulators, because sometimes they come in and do harm. And the issue that came to light was around housing and the homeless. That there's an area that needs to be looked at because people and gentrification is going on and they're getting transmitted out of some of the areas. It also points to the fact that our areas of special interest that we've always kept there, which has sometimes been racially comprised, some of that is changing, but the economics are not changing. And so all of that has to be looked at, and it's a necessity as I see it. And that's the information I'm trying to bring forth, and it may open a special door to help us since we're out there already. It adds to them because then they got something to model with. Other than that, they're just locked in a room with some facts and statistics and looking at things that people are giving them instead of seeing a real operating entity that is doing what they want to do. And we have made the mistakes and can save them some modeling when they put theirs together so they don't make the same mistakes and can go further. Anyway, I wanted to make sure I got that in because I think it's important as we go forth. I think we're going to have a position, and that's what I'm fighting for, to give us position going forward and give us some kind of visibility in the whole makeup. That's it.
All right, thank you, Bill. Okay, let's move on to our next agenda item. Thank you, Marlene. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Marlene. Thank you, Eric. So next we have a resolution to continue to hold virtual meetings under AB 361. As you've all heard and seen, we've seen a significant surge in COVID cases around the country, in the state, in the East Bay, and certainly here at the district. The criteria to continue meeting virtually under AB 361 still exists in California, in that we're still in a state of emergency and social distancing is still recommended. So what I'm recommending to the board is to adopt the resolution to continue meeting virtually for another 30 days. And I'm skipping the presentation just for time.
All right, any comments? All right,
I'll move the
All right, moved by Director Young, seconded by Director Patterson. Any other discussion on this? Seems pretty straightforward and obvious. All right, let's have a roll call vote.
Director Coleman,
Yes.
Director Katz,
Yes.
Director McIntosh,
Yes.
Director Mellon,
Yes.
Director Patterson,
Yes.
Director Young,
Yes.
President Linney.
Yes. All right, carries unanimously. On to item 20, this is the district emergency.
Yeah, thank you for that one. So on January 3rd, we were alerted about a sinkhole that developed at the Oakland Coliseum parking lot. The sinkhole was over the district's south interceptor, and upon investigation, the top of the 63-inch diameter interceptor had collapsed. On January 4th, I declared a district emergency in consultation with President Linney to expedite the repair of the interceptor. And before you is a resolution to ratify the emergency declaration, and we have Eileen White here to provide some background on the failure and the plan moving forward.
Great. Good afternoon, President Linney and members of the board. You can go on to the next slide, please. In today's presentation, I'm just going to provide a brief overview of the catastrophic failure of a portion of the South Interceptor. And then I want to describe the excellent response to the emergency by the wastewater team. And then I want to conclude with next steps. Next slide, please. A map of the district's wastewater system is shown on the left. The interceptors and force mains, which are large diameter pipelines, are shown as green lines. On January 3rd, the city of Oakland alerted us about a sinkhole in the parking lot of the Oakland Coliseum. Wastewater staff were immediately dispatched and confirmed that a portion of the South Interceptor, just north of a manhole and adjacent to the Elmhurst Creek, had collapsed and formed a sinkhole about 12 feet deep. The South Interceptor in this area serves Oakland International Airport and a portion of East Oakland, and it provides critical wastewater conveyance for critical customers. Next slide, please. Here's an aerial image of the area south of the Coliseum in the parking lot. The blue box shows where the manhole is and the Elmhurst Creek overflow structure are located. The yellow line shows the 63-inch diameter interceptor, which conveys wastewater northward. Next slide, please. These photos show the sinkhole on January 3rd when the district was first alerted. The yellow circles indicate where the sinkhole is visible from the surface. The sinkhole was difficult to discern because the 8-foot diameter hole was covered by a 3-inch layer of asphalt. Upon arrival to the site, staff quickly marked the asphalt above the damaged pipe with spray paint and restricted access with a combination of fencing, caution tape, and barricades to protect the public. Next slide, please. Then staff began removing the asphalt above the sinkhole as shown by the photos in the top row. The photos in the bottom row show the exposed sinkhole, which is approximately 12 feet deep. The crown or top of the interceptor collapsed, so the wastewater flowing in the interceptor is visible. When the crown collapsed, pieces of the pipe and soil fell into the interceptor. The photo at the bottom right shows an inspector sticking a GoPro camera into the interceptor pipe. Next, please. Here are the photos of the GoPro video footage. The inside of the interceptor in the immediate vicinity around the sinkhole is deteriorated with exposed and broken aggregate and rebar. The photos show the rags and wipes hanging off of the exposed rebar. There's a reason we say wipes clog pipes. We're still in the process of videoing the entire interceptor segment from one manhole to the next in that area to understand the extent of the damage. Next slide, please. The next step was shoring and excavation to create a trench that allows workers to safely access the damaged interceptor pipe and to stabilize the sinkhole in advance of last weekend's events. Next slide, please. So as we speak today, they are removing debris and pieces of pipe and soil from inside the manhole and inside the hole of the pipe. We're storing the debris at the nearby Oakport wet weather facility for chemical analysis, and based on the results, we'll know the best way to dispose of the debris. You can see here, this is a good photo showing the hole on the top of the pipe. and it extends about 20 feet. And we are working against time because right now the pipe is not flowing full, but when we get those I&I events, those big storms, the pipe flows full and then it would overflow into the creek and we would have a sanitary sewer overflow. So we appreciate the board ratifying the emergency today. We're still finalizing the details of our work plan to repair the pipe, but as shown in blue, a half section of corrugated metal pipe will be placed over the damaged section of pipe and covered with a new reinforced concrete cap. And then a corrosion resistant coating will be applied to the corrugated metal pipe. And then the interior lining of the interceptor will be repaired in the affected area. And then our goal will be, once sufficient curing time has occurred, about 5 to 7 days, the excavation will be backfilled and compacted with select fill to grade. And then restoration of the site paving and fencing will be conducted at the conclusion of the work. Next slide, please. So we've been working, we got notified last Monday afternoon. And as I said, the team has done an amazing job responding to this emergency. Unfortunately, we weren't able to work the weekend, and we've been working very closely with the Oakland Coliseum because they had the monster truck event planned for last Saturday and Sunday. So that limited our ability to work on the weekend. So to prepare for the event, we installed fencing, K-rails, pedestrian walkway, and other safety measures. We basically were taking up 2 lanes of traffic and the pedestrian walkway. But the good news is we were able to cover up the sinkhole with metal and wood sheeting, so none of the monster trucks would make this show more exciting by landing in a sinkhole. So that was the good news. The left photo shows you the corrugated metal pipe that might be used to repair the interceptor. And the right photo is the sinkhole is covered up with the metal and wood sheeting prior to last Sunday and Saturday's monster event. And then the next slide, I'd just like to take a moment to just show you, this is the slide on the left is from Monday, January 3rd, when we got alerted. By Friday, we had put up the shoring, we had investigated the pipe, we had worked very closely with the Coliseum and coordinated with them. And by Friday afternoon, we had basically accomplished a lot of work to ensure the public safety of the monster truck event Saturday and Sunday. And we were able to continue our mission of protecting public health in San Francisco Bay. Fortunately, the weather is working with us. The forecast is dry for the next week, which we're real excited about, because if we were to get storms, as you hear, we go from 50 million gallons per day average dry flow at the plant to over 500, as we did many times in December, that pipe would overflow. We've also been in coordination with the Regional Water Quality Control Board and the regulators, so they are aware of our situation and that we are acting very swiftly. But I just want to say special thanks to the wastewater team who've done an outstanding job responding to this emergency. Next slide. And just at every step of the way, we've been coordinating proactively with all the stakeholders involved, including the City of Oakland, the Oakland Arena, the Water Board, California Department of Fish and Wildlife, and all the appropriate agencies. And then finally, I'm just going to briefly summarize our timeline. And so right on January 3rd, we were alerted. On January 4th, the emergency declaration was considered. And then today we're asking the board to consider ratifying the emergency. And we are moving as swiftly as we can. And we got to remember, this is different than a water pipe. The contractor and our staff were out working till midnight last week because they had to wait till the morning flows to decrease to be able to work in the pipe. So we're working as swiftly as we can. But once again, there's another event at the Coliseum this weekend, so we are prohibited from working on the weekend. But our goal is to repair the pipe as quickly as possible and hopefully before the next storms come in. Next slide, please. So finally, next steps, we're asking the board to ratify the declaration of the district emergency, to authorize expenditures of funds to fix the pipe. And our goal is to complete the repair by the end of January. And next slide. I just want to say thank you to the board for all their support and for the general manager for his support. And thank you for listening today to my briefing on the first and hopefully last emergency for the wastewater department in 2022. Thank you.
How come I feel that there's a major repair of the interceptor in that area going to be coming to us at some point?
Yeah, and so we're going to do as much as we can before the next storm, and we are CCTV and to understand it. Ironically, this portion of the Interceptor was inspected 10 years ago and was not prioritized because there was other segments that were much worse. And we had planned an inspection later this year. So unfortunately, it gave us a New Year's surprise a little early, but the team's done an amazing job responding. And I appreciate all the support from Clifford and the board of directors.
All right, John, and then Marguerite, and then Frank.
Eileen, great report. Roughly about how much money do we think we're going to be spending? I'm not saying that we shouldn't. I'm just a question that'll lead to another question.
Right. So depending on the extent of what we find out from our CCTV, which is going to be completed later this week, and how big is this? We know the collapsed portion is 20 feet. We know that the sinkhole itself was over 8 feet in diameter and it was over 12 feet deep. So we've got to stabilize that. We've got to fix the pipe. And then we want to see between the two manholes, which is about 1,000 feet, what else do we need to do? Do we need to do some slip lining, or are we going to put that off and do that as a separate project? And are we just going to fix the failed portion? So depending on that, we could be spending in the order of $400,000 to $600,000. We've also contacted a contractor that if it rains and we're not finished, we're going to have to do bypass. And if we have to bypass the flow, that in and of itself, that estimate was almost $400,000. So I think our goal is ideally to fix it as quickly as possible, repair it, and then come back and finish the more extensive long-term plan as far as slip lining, probably in the next year.
Thank you. I think this is a great story to tell. The presentation you did and the photos, I'm sure it really shows moving quickly and for the right reasons for public health and environment and safety and everything else. I don't know if the media has been informed. I've not seen any media things about it, but maybe once it's done with the collage of photos you've taken, a presentation can be made to the media so people understand better where some of their money's going and how and what we're doing to protect public health, the environment, and so on. This is it's an unfortunate situation, but it's a great story.
No, I agree. And I think it's part of explaining to others our competing priorities of dealing with our aging infrastructure, and especially wastewater, which is a corrosive environment. And we've been investing in our interceptors every year. It's not like we have not been rehabbing it. We got an award from CAS a couple of years ago for our rehab of over 5,000 feet in West Oakland. So it's, yeah, I appreciate your comment.
Thanks.
Marguerite. Bill, I see your hand. You
I'm
come
really
after
glad.
Frank.
I'm what?
I'm sorry, I saw Bill's hand. I just want to say he can go after Frank.
Okay. Eileen, this great report. All the crews, great job on responding. My question is about, I mean, we're lucky that we've got a dry spell ahead. I'm a little, I get it that, the monster truck rally and whatever's happening at the Coliseum this weekend are, important big money things for, I guess the city gets something out of it. Certainly the promoters get a lot out of it, but if when there's a conflict between what we need to do to prevent a serious environmental catastrophe, public health, et cetera, and an event like what's happening at the Coliseum, if it were just a regular street, we'd be blocking off the street. We'd be, closing it down, shutting off the, et cetera. But because it's the Coliseum, we can't work on the weekends. I just if you could share a little bit about, if we knew we had a big atmospheric river coming,
Right. I think at that point I would be needing support from the board because, I went online. I wasn't planning to attend, and I didn't attend the monster truck event. It's not my type of event, but I did go online to see. It's expensive. It had been planned. There's more events scheduled this weekend. The Coliseums have been really good to work with. I've been coordinating directly with their general manager on this, and they've been collaborative. Because the forecast was dry, you bring up an excellent point, Director Young. That would get the media involved. Back to the earlier question, my goal is always to try to generally keep the media out of this and try to solve our problems. But I think that that would probably get the media involved, and I would probably need the board involved if we were to do that. Part of it too is it takes time to do this. We got to quickly get a contractor and get him. And we've been very lucky. We've got an excellent contractor we worked with several years ago on a project. So even them getting the materials. So with the pandemic, getting the materials, the contractor was having problems. So we felt it was appropriate to let them go forward with their event Saturday and Sunday as we were working on the design and trying to secure the materials for the repair of the pipe. And to go in, as I speak today, there's a sled inside the pipe trying to pick up all that debris. So part of it was we needed time to get the materials.
I still don't get why they would have to cancel, that the alternative was canceling the event as opposed to roping off a portion of the parking lot to do the work.
Well, as it was, and remember, this was the monster truck event where they drive the big, huge trucks. I Googled and learned more about it than I probably need to know, but they're driving it all over the Coliseum. And basically we were taken up with our sinkhole. We have the whole pedestrian walkway on the south portion of the Coliseum and 2 traffic lanes. So we're taking up quite a bit of real estate there that impacts traffic flow. And then if we were to have a contractor working, we would be needing that much more space. So as it is, even butting down the site, putting metal plates out there, putting barricades, fencing, we're taking a pedestrian walkway and 2 lanes out of service. If we were going to have a contractor working, we wouldn't want an event going on. I think it would just be too dangerous. Public safety is a top priority.
All right, Frank, were you next?
So I'm going to follow up on kind of what you said as a future project also. That pipe, how old is it, Eileen? I think you said it.
It's about 70 years old. You know, it went in and the wastewater plant was built in the early 50s, 1951. So it's old. It's aging infrastructure.
Okay. And when do you propose to put it on for our projects for capital?
So we were planning, well, we had plans to go inspect it this year, and now we're expediting the inspection as we speak since the pipe is open, and we'll have that information that will help inform us as far as when it will be in the CIP. That's what we do is we did big inspections of the entire Interceptor system about 10 years ago. And based on that, we prioritized the worst segments. And over the last 10 years, we've rehabbed about 5 miles of Interceptor. And, you know, the Interceptor is very challenging to rehab because the flow keeps coming. It's wastewater flow. So this segment was not deemed a priority 10 years ago, but it was recommended for re-inspection this coming year, and it was scheduled, and it's in the CIP. And I want to thank the board. You guys approved the contract for the South Interceptor Special Stretchers Phase 3 back at the last board meeting in December. So we've been systematically repairing the interceptors over time. This particular segment, now that we've inspected it, we see that there's a pipe from Oakland that comes in at a high flow. So there's more hydrogen sulfide gas that probably expedited the corrosion and expedited the deterioration and caused the failure.
How, I have this vision of, instead of it happening when it did, what would it have been like if it was Super Bowl weekend?
Well, I think the biggest concern for us is if it was raining outside, because literally the creek is within 5 feet. And now that pipe is open. It's like an open channel flow. And we've had our operators adjust the operations to keep the flow continuing moving. But if it was to storm tonight, like the storms we had in December, we would overflow. There's no top to the pipe and we would have a violation. So I think that's our biggest concern. And then at that point, if there's a storm coming in, I think at that point we would need to work with the Coliseum, but I think it would be a big deal to shut down a big event where people have pre-purchased tickets.
Thank you.
All right, Bill.
I was just going to give you a little bit of history. Eileen, I first went to work in East Oakland near that site at Brookfield Recreation Center. That's where they named the park for me now, and a ball field for Joe Morgan. And I was the first African-American to conduct professional football when the Raiders were at Frank Ewell Field. and I was a consultant when they built the Coliseum. All of that land out there, under the Coliseum is a whole network of pipes and whatnot. And that land out there at one time was below grade, and you actually had tidal flow coming into it. So a lot of that ground down there is unstable. And I just point that out to you to say, we need to be vigilant around all of the structures in that area, because that was part of what I was helpful when they were building the Coliseum to help them with. And I have on my shirt today, I'm really celebrating John Madden, because when the Raiders moved there, we helped them get settled. And part of the dilemma, we had an engineer in the hurry up to get the Coliseum ready for the first football game, which the Raiders were going to play. They put heavy equipment right in the center and on the field. And I told them, I said, you got a problem. They said, what? I said, if it rains, you got a swimming pool. And they said, what do you mean? You've compacted the soil that you put on top of the drain, and the damn thing won't work. And that proved to be true. So they had to do emergency before that game, drill holes and whatnot to make all that work. And you got a real good puzzle. You're just a person for it because you got the energy and the knowledge and the engineering skill. I'm happy that you're out there. So call me sometime if you need to have a little bit of conversation about it. I thank you for helping, and I'm glad, Doug, that's your ward, not mine.
Go Monster Trucks.
With that, I'd move 20.1 and 2.
All right.
Second.
Great, thank you. And Bill will get a second on that. Any further discussion or questions? All right, call for a roll call vote.
Director Coleman,
Yes.
Director Katz,
Yes.
Director McIntosh.
Yes, for me and my peer elect.
Okay. Director Mellon,
Yes.
Director Patterson,
Yes.
Director Young,
Yes.
President Linney.
Yes. All right, thank you, Eileen, and thank you all the crew that's been working on that. It's not over yet. We appreciate all the work, and let's, I guess in this case, we're hoping for no rain.
Yeah, exactly.
It seems counterintuitive about these things, but. All right, on to item 21, we're back to redistricting.
Yep, and I also wanted to thank Eileen and the wastewater team. So we have for your consideration a motion to consider actions authorizing the acceptance of the district's redistricting proposal number 1, and this proposal was discussed and recommended by the redistricting ad hoc committee. And we have Risha Cole and George McQuarrie to provide a brief update.
Next slide, please, Robin. So good afternoon. As Clifford said today, George McQuarrie and I will present information on East Bay MUD's redistricting efforts. And I will review actions taken to date, and George will review ward population data, deviation percentages, and the 3 proposals presented to the redistricting ad hoc committee. And then I'll close. Oh, it was set for Derry. I'll close with recommendations and next steps. Thank you. Next slide. So in February 2021, the U.S. Census Bureau announced that census data would be released in September. In the past, data had been released in February or March after the census, and redistricting usually started around May. This year, to get a head start on things, and because we knew we wouldn't get the data until later in the year, the redistricting ad hoc committee was formed and comprised of President Linney, Vice President Coleman, and Director Young. The committee met on June 22nd and August 24th to review and establish the guidelines and criteria, and those guidelines and criteria were adopted on September 14th. On September 28th, the committee established the target population deviation percentage of 3%, which George will go over later on in the presentation. And on the 30th, we received the final census data from the Census Bureau. And with that, we determined the final the service area population and the target ward population. October 26th, the committee began the redistricting efforts, and staff presented 3 proposals, which you will see today. And the redistricting committee recommended proposal 1, and they chose proposal 1 to present to the full board for consideration because it's the easiest geographically for customers to determine their ward and director. Customers in San Lorenzo who may want to contact their director will be able to say they reside on either the bay side or the hillside of 880. Proposal 1 also provides additional constituents for Ward 7 and brings Ward 7 much closer than proposals 2 and 3 to the 2020 target population of 211,060. When the committee met on October 26th, they also agreed to present the proposals to the full board on the 23rd. However, staff recommended holding an additional meeting to allow additional public review and comment on the proposals. Staff conducted targeted outreach to customers in or around proposal area 1 in San Leandro and San Lorenzo and posted information to social media for the entire service area for that meeting. At that November 23rd meeting, the committee reaffirmed its decision to recommend proposal 1 for board consideration. And I am going to turn it over to George and he'll go over those 3 proposals. Next slide. George should be in the meeting.
Are you sure while we're waiting?
Can I unmute? There we go. Thank you very much. So,
one moment,
yes.
George, you had a question, Director Mellon?
I was just wondering the number of comments we got to the record on the proposals.
On November 23rd, when we had that meeting, we received 1 comment from the public, and we received a few comments about the targeted outreach emails, but we had 1 comment for the November 23rd meeting. You're welcome.
So overall, we've had 10% growth across the district. Our total service area population for 2020 is 1,477,418. Each ward has added population since 2010. Some wards grew more than others. Next slide, please. The board adopted a target ward population, a board adopted allowable deviation of 3%. That 3% deviation, it's plus or minus 6,332 or 204,728 to 217,392. So Ward 5 is above the population board adopted allowable deviation of 3% at 3.23% or 217,828. Ward 7, which shares a board with Ward 5, has the second highest deviation and is also our least populated, still very large at 207,016, but is negative 1.92%. Next slide, please. So here are the numbers again, and you can see when we updated the wards with the 2020 census numbers, in the red row, that Ward 5 has experienced the most population growth of all. And by the last column, it exceeds the board adopted allowable deviation of 3% again. And you can see in blue, Ward 7, which has the least population of the 7 wards. And if you look in the column to the second from the left, deviation from, 2020 target population, again, we see what is 1,477,418 divided by 7 is 211,060. So that is our ideal target population for each ward. So we had 3 proposals made for the board's consideration on how to rebalance. Let's run through them. Next slide, please. Proposal 1 was moving an area of San Leandro that is east of Highway 880 from Ward 5 to Ward 7. This is an area south of San Leandro Creek between 880 and the Southern Pacific Railroad. This is moving a population of 4,637. Next slide, please. So because we're working with census blocks as defined by PL 94-171, you can see these census blocks laid out in what staff internally call the fish shape. The proposal one is moving the heavily black lined area in white from Ward 5 on the left into Ward 7 on the right. Next slide, please. And here would be the results of that. As you can see in the red row, Ward 5 is now within the board adopted allowable deviation of 3% and is in fact at 1.03%. And in blue, Ward 7 would then be at 0.28%. Next slide, please. Proposal 2 was to move a minimum from Ward 5 to Ward 7 to meet the population, the board adopted allowable deviation of 3%. It is a subset of Proposal 1. If you remember the large fish shape from the Proposal 1, this is a tiny fin at the bottom of Proposal 1. This is an area of San Lorenzo east of Highway 880 and south of Lansing Way. It moves one populated census block, 508 people, and two zero population street blocks that contain the water supply going to that block. Next slide, please. So here's a close-up of those three census blocks, only one of which is populated and two of which are streets. Next slide, please. So here you can see the results in red and blue. This would barely move the needle underneath 3% to 2.99% for Ward 5 and barely move the needle on Ward 7. It would still be at negative 1.68%. Next slide, please. Proposal 3 was moving a bit further north on the border between Wards 5 and 7 to the Greenhouse Marketplace area in San Leandro, extending along San Leandro Creek, but on the north side. So San Leandro is already split between Wards 5 and 7 by Highway 880. Next slide, please. So this is the marketplace area, this was Proposal 3. Next slide, please. As you can see, it would also move Ward 5 to 2.94% within the board adopted allowable deviation of 3%, and Ward 7 slightly also, but it would still be the most negative in terms of percent of deviation. So next slide, please. And that concludes the numbers on it. And as Risha has already reiterated, the redistricting committee chose Proposal 1 because it is the most easily geographically for customers to determine. It runs right along 880, and it's easy for customers to know which director they have because which side of 880 do you live on, the bay side or the hillside? Thank you.
Thank you, George. Are there any questions before I go over the recommendations and next steps about the information presented? Okay. All right. So today we are asking the board to accept Proposal 1 for comment at public hearings in February and March 2022. And on the in the staff report, we asked for, we would like to schedule public hearings for February 8th and March 8th, 2022. And these public hearings are in accordance with the election code, which states before adjusting the boundaries of a division pursuant to election code section 22,000, or for any other reason, the governing body shall hold at least one public hearing on the proposal to adjust the boundaries, and that would be the public hearing on February 8th, prior to the public hearing at which the governing body votes to approve or defeat the proposal, and that would be the public hearing on March 8th. On April 12th, the board would be scheduled to approve the legal ward boundaries and final ward map to submit to Alameda and Contra Costa counties by April 17th, which is the deadline for the November 2022 elections. If the board approves the actions today, there will be public outreach, emails, and letters if needed to local elected and appointed officials. Information will be posted on our social media sites, notices in newspapers of general circulation. The redistricting webpage will include all of this information as well as the previous information from previous meetings, and also we will include information in splashes. And that concludes our presentation for today, and we'll take questions or comments or a vote.
Well, I would move staff's recommendation for proposal number 1.
This is John. I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval. And again, just a reminder, the ad hoc committee did take a look at this, and that's our recommendation as well.
Is there any public comment?
Any public comment? We have no public comment.
Don't see any.
Okay.
Okay.
This is a first.
Then let's go ahead and take the roll call vote.
Okay. Director Coleman,
Yes.
Director Katz,
Yes.
Director McIntosh,
Yes.
Director Mellon,
Before I say yes, I want to say thank you to the committee for the fine job that you guys did. You put a lot of time and extra energy in it, so wholeheartedly, yes.
Director Patterson,
Yes.
Director Young,
Yes.
President Linney.
Yes. All right, thank you. And I'll take this moment to show appreciation for both Risha and George who did the yeoman's work on all of this.
Absolutely.
The committee's work was mostly to stay awake during all the numbers and everything else. I'm just kidding, of course. We took it all very seriously. And I'm also just want to say, Risha, it's not easy to put together the presentation, run the meeting, and watch for people who are making questions and stuff like that. So it was always interesting to see you juggling and very skillfully, I might add.
So President Linney, what I heard the board vote on was accepting proposal 1, but we still have 21B to vote on.
Okay, thank you for that.
Which is to set the public hearing.
I'll move adoption of 21B.
That's for this public hearings, moved by Director Young.
Second.
And a second by Director McIntosh. All right, any further comment on that? Let's go ahead and have a roll call vote on that as well.
Director Coleman,
Yes.
Director Katz,
Yes.
Director McIntosh,
Yes.
Director Mellon,
Yes.
Director Patterson,
Yes.
Director Young,
Yes.
President Linney.
Yes. All right, carries unanimously, and we're on to the general manager's report.
Thank you, Risha. Thank you, George. So first up is our water supply update. You've all seen that December was a good month in terms of precipitation. Our snowpack is healthy. Our precipitation is above average. January is dry, but in light of Eileen's challenges, that's not a bad thing. We have Dave Briggs here, Director of Operations and Maintenance, to provide the update.
Good afternoon, President Linney, members of the board. Yeah, I think Eileen's got at least a 2-week window to get her work done. And let's see, I'm going to try to. Okay, thank you, Janetta. And I'm trying to. Now, okay. I've never done this before, so. Okay, great. There you go. Thank you, Janetta. Yes.
I have a hand up for public comment, so I'm going to see if this is Eric Larson. Eric, were you commenting on the water supply report, the biennial report? What were you going to comment on?
Risha, I apologize. I was going to comment on the COVID update, but there is no COVID update. So my comments will be on the GM's report about the lack of a COVID update. So I'll wait until the conclusion of his report, I suppose, or I can start right now.
Well, Eric, if it's not listed, you can't talk about it.
That's right.
I'm
teasing you.
I was going to say, I think we can accommodate it because we did pass up
comments.
the public comment
Yes.
report period. But since we're into the water supply briefing right now, let's go ahead and take this and get your comment afterwards.
Sure, thank you.
Okay, thanks, President Linney. So we'll proceed here with the water supply update for January 11th. And I first want to just highlight our water production, which, as Director Patterson made mention to a few moments ago, We are still conserving and saving water relative to last year, which is shown in green on this slide. This year is shown in red. We're about 11% below last year in terms of water production. Things really dropped off in the middle of October, or the third week of October, when that first atmospheric river came through Central California. We've maintained really low winter levels of water production ever since then. And interestingly, as we've gotten into January and late December, they've gotten even lower, and we're even 5% below our winter levels now, which is really remarkable, saving that much water during the wintertime. So
Dave,
still, yes.
Before you get off this chart, remind me why we use the average 2005, 2007 is the.
Yeah, I think that represented the most recent high watermark, if you will, in terms of water production. So it's I don't think it's any kind of special baseline, other than it's just basically a large water production year. It's the last most recent high watermark for our water production.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so as you know, we had quite an October highlighted or punctuated by one event, and in December we had a pretty wet month with a series of storms moving through Central California that gave us really the impressive levels of precipitation that we've recorded so far up country with our 4-station index, and we're about 157% of average as of last week, so doing very, very well. Not off to a great start in January. We've had a high pressure ridge above the state here for the last week or so. It's anticipated to stay for another week, and I'll get to this in a moment, but there are some indications that the ridge will break down in the second half of January. That's a necessary but not sufficient condition for getting the storm door open, but it's definitely a good thing to see in the long-term weather forecasting models. Is there a question, or is that Eric's hand up, I guess? I'll keep going. And then locally, similar story, great amount of precipitation so far, but not so much in January. We'll see how much more we get. The end of the month, 18.47 inches so far, well beyond what we recorded all of last year, and we have 3.5 months, 3 months or so of prime water year left, months of water year left here. Snow levels, we've got 62 inches of snowpack, quite impressive for this early in the year. We're tracking very, very well. The storms that have gone through have been very cold with a low snow line, so the snowpack that we have up there at 8,000 feet is by and large staying put. It's compressing a bit, which is why you see it go down. Not much melt so far up that high, and we are seeing a lot of snow at that mid elevation level, which is great to see. And that is actually really shown in this photograph here. This is our Calaveras Big Trees weather station. It's about, I think it's a little bit over 4,000 feet in elevation. Normally our hydrographers walk to this station and unlock the gate and service the instrument and calibrate it. The last time they were there about a week and a half ago, they just simply walked over the fence because the fence was completely buried. So a lot of snow at that mid elevation level, which is great to see. And you can see in the numbers below, we're well above average in terms of snow depth and snow water content. In terms of storage, the last presentation you saw in the middle of December, we were showing 442,000 acre feet of total system storage. We're now above 500,000, and that's rising. So that's all headed in the right direction. We suspended Freeport operation on December 28th, and you can see here that our storage is very good, particularly locally. We're at 88%, and as Mr. Tognolini was mentioning a couple of hours ago, we do have roughly a 75% chance from this point forward of spilling our local storage. So we're doing very well with the possibility of having excess water here in the East Bay, and the chances are good, the odds are good, that we might be able to get back up to flood control levels upcountry. We're about 100,000 acre feet below flood reserve levels upcountry, but we do have time to get there, and plenty of opportunities to get back up to a full storage, which I'll show in a slide or two.
Dave, Director Melton has his hand up.
Yeah, So when you start talking about spilling locally, that makes my radar go up. There's this golf course that I worry about. Are we reaching the stage where we're going to have a chat with them about what the future looks like?
Yeah, so Director Mellon, we do keep in constant contact with our colleagues over there at Touchstone Golf who manage the golf course. And we're not at spill elevation yet. We're 4 feet below that elevation at USL right now. But that dialogue is open. They know how to reach us. And, you know, we have this competing objective. We want that reservoir as full as possible, but we want to do it in a very controlled way so that we don't have any adverse impacts downstream. But thank you for the reminder.
Believe me, I hear about it before anybody else does. So thank you, Eric. And keep me posted too, please.
Absolutely.
Director Coleman, you have a question?
I do. With these are great numbers, awesome numbers. If we continue on the trend we're on, have we started to look at how it may impact our fisheries down beneath Comanche in terms of water quality, well, not water quality as much as water temperature and flow in return of salmon and the for the fall and winter runs, spring runs?
Well, I can certainly speak to the temperature and the flow. I think, you know, I'm going to turn around and see if Mike Togliani wants to add anything specifically about the fishery. But Director Coleman, I'll show in a few slides what the probability is of actually filling the system, which would give us great temperature control ability. And we may, if depending on what type of hydrology we see in the next few months, that will dictate the flow release schedule below Comanche, and we just don't know yet at this point what that will be. But it could be wet, it could be above normal, we'll have to see.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so just giving you a picture of statewide. All of the Sierra is in really good shape. It's really good to see such healthy numbers, particularly in the southern Sierra, which I think in the last few years has really gotten the short end of the stick. But the last atmospheric river, or a series of them that went through, really did target the central coast and the Bay Area and the central and southern Sierra, so that's why these numbers are so healthy. This is all in terms of water supply equivalent. And just looking even more broadly, this is a complicated slide. I know it relies on a different set of models, so this is not the 10 or 14-day weather forecasting models. This is global climate models that look at El Nino or La Nina. The La Nina condition, which we've been experiencing for this water year, is probably going to weaken as we get into the spring, and that will lead us to what the forecasters are saying is a roughly an equal chance of being above or below normal year. So according to these sets of models, we have a good chance of having median hydrology here on out. That would be more than enough to fill our system. These models are very rough, as you know, nothing that we can take to the bank. And then just the last couple slides here, this shows you where we are in terms of precipitation so far in the upper McKelvey watershed. We're almost at 30 inches. And from here, you can see the range of hydrologies ranging from a dry hydrology moving forward all the way to a wet. And looking like really within that envelope, we're kind of heading towards an average type of a year, which would be fantastic at this point. That would be good enough. But we'll see where we go from here. Last year, we had about 24 inches of precipitation up there the entire year. So we're already well beyond what we had last year. And then this is really what it comes all down to, the final slide. We are just over 500,000 acre feet in system storage.
Yes.
And even the dry forecast from here will get us to 630 going into the next water year. And just if you're curious, the 99% exceedance would get us to 540,000 acre feet. That's the 99 exceedance forecast from here, which you can tell is, you know, very low probability of happening. 99% of the years are wetter than that. So I would say in closing, our odds are good, but I can give you good odds, but I can't give you assurances. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Dave. So next, we have attached in your board packet, you probably saw the biannual report for fiscal years 20 and 21.
So let's give,
Oh, I thought
Eric.
Eric wanted to comment on the GM monthly report, but we can take his comment now.
Eric, you still around?
I'm getting him
Which
back.
Eric?
And Eric?
Okay, yeah, I'm still here. Thank you.
Okay, your 3 minutes start now.
Thank you, Risha. Yeah, I hate to go after such a good water report. We're all happy to see the rains and the snow return. We have also seen a really significant, substantial return of COVID surge, this apparent Omicron surge. I was surprised that it's not covered in the GM's report this afternoon. You know, we've been seeing at the district on the order of 8 to 12 positives per day. We have had 4 OSHA defined workplace outbreaks in the last week. As of January 6th, 125 district employees were isolating due to COVID positive or symptomatic. 31 AFSCME 444 members are isolating due to a positive COVID test. 39 are isolating due to being symptomatic. That's 70 out of the 125. 59 out of 111 employees who are quarantined due to non-workplace close contact are 444 members. 444 members are disproportionately impacted by COVID leave requirements because we don't have the ability to work from home. And except for the instance of the workplace close contacts, we're required to take our own leave on our own time, even while we have no symptoms, even while we're well. If I'm have a close contact, if I have a child at home who comes home from school with a cough, I have to take my own sick leave until I can prove that my child is COVID negative with a COVID negative test. And I'm sure you've heard all in the media, it can take 2 weeks now at Kaiser to get a negative test. This is a big problem for our members here at the district who don't have work from home. AFSCME 444 is engaged with management presently in the meet and confer process to work towards reducing the required leave time and getting testing available and getting people back to work. We do need expanded testing and improved accessibility. Right now, the district has on-site rapid testing 3 days a week. We need on-site rapid testing 5 days a week so that our people can come back to work and continue to do the work of the district. I do want to thank David Briggs and Director White for working towards that end and keeping the district safe, but we do need to provide the time for our members to take leave when they need to take leave to maintain safe working conditions here at the district. If my child has a cold and I need to make sure it's not COVID before I come to work, I also need to feed my child and pay rent, and I may not be able to afford to take leave without pay if I don't have sick leave on the books.
Eric,
the same as Oakland Unified, the same as the city and county of San Francisco, we need additional COVID-related leave available for those who do not have work from home options.
Eric, your
That's
3
all
minutes
we're
have
asking
concluded.
you to give authority to the negotiators to provide additional COVID-related leave to maintain safe working conditions at the district. Thank you. Thanks, Risha. Sorry for going over there.
Thank you, Eric.
Okay, now moving on to the biannual report, we have Andrea Polk here to share with you the new interactive biennial report that's on our website.
Hello, good afternoon, President Linney and members of the board, and Happy New Year as well. I'm excited to present to you today the district's biennial report for 2020 and 2021. The report reflects the hard work of EBMUD's essential workers to protect public health and the environment these past 2 years that have been quite challenging. I'd like to move to the next slide, please. The title of the report is on the front lines. I'd like to begin by thanking Tracy Morales in our Public Affairs Office and Eric Fiebig in graphic design for their work to continually find new ways to reach out to our customers and our opinion leaders. Next slide, please. So 2 years ago, we redesigned the report, we meaning Tracy and the report was redesigned for the purpose of reaching a larger audience. So in addition to the elected officials and opinion leaders, we really wanted to have a report that is more condensed and more accessible for our general public. This year, we went a step further and created a digital report. This is the first time that our report is available as an interactive report. And this time it contains videos and live links. Videos in particular, we have videos that highlight wastewater and water innovation, and we have a new video that was created by our diversity inclusion office that would I encourage you to check it out. It'll give you a tour of the McCollum watershed. The report gives us the ability to expand our distribution, so we are able to email it to our electeds and opinion leaders, and also send it to all the customers that we have emails for. So that's over 200,000 customers that we can now reach. The report is mobile friendly, meaning it can be viewed on any device, a phone or iPad or computer. And it does meet all accessibility requirements for the visually impaired. The report is printable if asked. And it also provides us the opportunity to look at some data so we can have a better sense of how many people are viewing it, which we don't get to do with a paper report, and we get to see what they click on and what they're the most interested in. Next slide, please. We're queuing up the 100-year anniversary next May with a series of spreads in this report that highlight the top things that we accomplished in every decade from the 1920s to the 2020s. And as we move forward on our planning for the centennial, we, of course, will be working to tell our story in the most authentic way that we can and not shy away from things that we might not have covered in the past. Next slide. Thank you. The report is representative of the district in terms of the photography. So we have chosen photos and chosen to profile our hardworking employees in a way that reflects diversity in age, in ethnicity, job classification, et cetera. We also do highlight in the report some major milestones in our DEI strategic plan. Next slide. This year, obviously, we've had to look at different ways to reach our audiences. Virtual board meetings is one way. Also, we've instituted email notifications for emergency water outages and a variety of online tours, story maps, highlighting our fossil find upcountry and also our water treatment process at Orinda. And we also in the past couple of years have unveiled our virtual trail map. Next slide. Thank you. So the report is available on the website now, and we will be highlighting it on social media, and we will be moving forward on emailing it, as I mentioned earlier. And I'll just take just a quick minute to share my screen to just show you what the actual report looks like. Okay. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. So here at the bottom right, you'll see a way to enlarge it to a full screen. You can navigate through the book either using these arrows to the left and right, or just by flipping the page. On the bottom of the page, you'll have options to enlarge the publication. You can directly share the publication with your constituents. You can download it, you can print it, and you can search for a specific item if you're looking for something in particular. So I'll just go ahead and flip through it quickly. You'll see the table of contents has live links to each section in the report. We have a message from our general manager and some stats. This is the history section that I was mentioning earlier. And I just want to point out the sweet version of splashes that's highlighted. And our ancient Jetsons logo. And then on this spread, you'll see the first video. So you can just, I'm not going to go through it right now, but you're welcome to take a peek. Just click on the video icon on the arrow and you'll get to see that video I mentioned earlier. And we also, as we have in the past, focused on, what actions can our customers take to delve deeper into something that they're interested in, learn more, get a deeper glimpse about who we are as a district. So the innovations in water and wastewater, our commitment to sustainability is highlighted. Clearly, our work to be prepared for emergencies and the importance of customer service and how we're reaching our customers, our workforce, and a snapshot of our finances. And that's the highlights of the report. So I'm going to stop sharing and happy to answer any questions.
Lisa, you have a question.
Hi, Andrea. So we will be tracking how many people will be utilizing the website for this issue.
Yes.
I mean, do we have, it sounds like we don't have a lot of utilization from our customers for our websites. Is that increasing?
So the website use has remained fairly high, actually. So what I don't know is how many people are looking at our annual or biennial, our biennial report, right? So the last issue was the first one that we made more widely available, but unfortunately COVID happened. And so all those print copies, we couldn't use them, right, at community events and such.
Right.
So that's why we were looking at different ways to distribute that and get this out to our community.
It would be nice if people really showed an interest.
I agree.
It's a beautiful product, and I just hope people will really utilize it and get to know their water agency. But
Thank you. Yes, we'll do our best to get it out there, and I'll report back on what we learned from the analytics, and please feel free to share it with whoever you'd like.
Great.
And
Thank you.
use your social media, Lisa. Put it on your Facebook page.
That's hilarious. I need to get one, right?
Yeah. Well, just for this
No,
purpose.
you have
that's
one
right.
because you commented on a link.
I
the other
have
day.
one. I just don't utilize it.
Well,
I
here's a
just
perfect
comment.
reason to.
Show me the way, Doug.
Yeah.
Andrea, what I was going to ask, or if you could, is provide us with something so that when we're doing emails I'd like to include it in, any responses
Sure.
that I'm making to, customer inquiries, or when I'm, chatting with, electeds in the various cities, et cetera. But it would be great if there was a little like email friendly, banner or something to drop in that would just, be easy as part of a signature line. If you could, make that happen. Maybe
Sure.
with a picture, the picture of the report, the cover of the report and a link that connects right to it. That would
That sounds
be,
great.
make it make it easy to put on, you know, Facebook or Instagram or whatever.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Thank you.
It's
to Margaret-
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just great.
It's great work. To Marguerite's question, could it, on our signature blocks from EBMUD, when we send an email, could we have it inserted into the?
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me check with our graphics folks. I believe we can do that. So I'll check with graphics and get right back to you.
Thanks.
Great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you for taking the time to show it to us too. It's really, really impressive. So we're not making any print copies this time. It's all website. Is that right? Yeah.
That's correct.
That's great. All right, well, let's see if we can get the readership up.
Thank you,
All
Andrea.
right, thank you, Andrea.
Thank you so much.
Very good, Andrea. Yeah.
So we have 3 reports attached to the General Manager's report. That's a 6 months forecast for committee and workshop items, the Interdepartmental Standing Committee annual report, and the monthly report. And I'm available to answer any questions.
All right, I don't see any questions. We already had our public comment on that. All right, thank you. Let's now move to reports and director comments. The minutes from the December 14th, 2021 Planning and Legislative Human Resources Committees are included in the agenda packet. We will now receive reports from today's Planning and Legislative Human Resources Committees. Director Young for Planning.
Yeah, the planning committee had one item on the agenda today. It was to hear the progress that we're making on the wet weather consent decree, and heard about the great work that is being done to decrease inflow and infiltration into our wastewater system. And that has been especially important in the recent episodes that we've had when, you know, our wet weather inflows increased, maybe was it 13 or 14 times the, you know, the drier weather flow. So we're ahead of our benchmarks at this point as we head into the first reporting that we need to do to EPA. And things, people feel optimistic, and yeah, just a lot of great work being done across a number of areas to better understand how that flow gets in and how to reduce it, both by the cities, private homeowners, and EBMUD. So that
Great.
was the planning committee.
All right, thank you. Director Coleman for Legislative and Human Resources.
Sure. We had 2 items on their agenda today. One we already approved, which were the 2022 federal legislative recommendations, directions to head. The other was a really good report by Derry Moten on diversity, equity, and inclusion strategic plan. That we're going to have a workshop on that on January 25th, and then looking in February to actually codify that and approve the diversity inclusion plan. Some good comments by staff, and a great presentation by Derry, and then a great presentation by Marlene on the federal stuff today.
Great, thank you. Other items for future consideration, please submit those items to the general manager. Any director comments? Bill.
Yes, Mr. President, members of the board, I wanted just to tune in on you and my wishes. John Madden died last week, and I wanted to be sure we were aware that Congress was celebrating John today. And this weekend, the 15th and 16th, the NFL will be doing a celebration to John. And because he was a member of our community, they lived at Black Hawk, it would be a good thing if I could get a message through from the board commemorating him. He made the Coliseum one of the biggest water entities in the use of water in the district. And John is heralded by almost everybody in the football community. I was privileged to know him personally, as I was to know Al Davis and his wife, Carol. And so if possible, we could get a note off and join with the many people who are commemorating John and his life in football. And I'm wearing my silver and black today. So that's my wish, Mr. President.
I think we can make that wish come true.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for those comments and for those memories of John Madden, who was definitely a son of the East Bay here.
Icon.
All right. Thank you. Any other board comments? All right. Our next meeting of the board will be held on Tuesday, January 25th, 2022 at 1:15. This meeting is now adjourned.